Let's get it. 580 Sports Talk on a Monday afternoon. We're back from the weekend and delighted to be with you for the next 4 hours here on the Sports Voice of Kansas. You're listening on 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com. Maybe you're checking out the video stream. You can do that in one of two ways. You can find us on our Facebook page, WIBW News, or you can stream us on our YouTube channel, YouTube, 580 Sports Talk. Go there, search for 580 Sports Talk, and join in with the fun in the YouTube live chat throughout the show today. Great way to interact with other listeners and your hosts. We look forward to hearing from you throughout these next 4 hours of the program today. Dan Lucero, Brendan Dworzinski, and producer-engineer Trent Cracks during our summer intern across the glass. Spencer Dupuis did eventually make it back after some travel misfortune, getting out of the DMV, not that DMV, the DC, Maryland, Virginia area.
Either one would make sense, though, given the context.
No, that's true. I've had some nightmarish stops at that other DMV, too, in my time. But Spencer will be along a little bit later on, so the gang will all be here on this Monday edition of the show. And we have got so much to get to today. Not only some Royals baseballs, the Royals dropped to 2-4 in the 580 Sports Talk Cup series. After losing 2 out of 3 to my Rockies earlier this month, they dropped 2 out of 3 to Brendan's Cubs this weekend. And we'll talk about what a 5-4 homestand represents for this team. And we'll talk about its newest members. Royals made a trade this morning, acquiring veteran pitcher and 2023 All-Star Michael Lorenzen from the Texas Rangers.
Yeah, I don't know if you noticed. If it's a little steamy in here, a little sweaty in here, it's because the stove is hot. It is on fire. Wow.
Stove is extremely hot. Stove could not be hotter. All kinds of things going on. The Chicago White Sox should disband. Honest to goodness. They held an everything must go.
Kennesaw Mountain Landis, early 1900s.
Yes. Seriously. This is honestly, like, it goes Black Sox scandal and then the trade they made today. The worst things that organization has ever been responsible for. Even more so than Disco Demolition Night. Disco Demolition Night, congratulations. You now win the bronze. Today's trade, everything must go sale, where they just forgot to get anybody from the Cardinals, one of the 3 teams involved. They just took 3 prospects from the Dodgers and are like, yeah, that's good.
Dude, Garrett Crochet is going to go for like a top 50 system prospect at this point. Like, you barely have to pay for him.
Garrett Crochet is going to go for like a couple of hot beef sandwiches and an autographed card of BJ Armstrong.
Like, you've got to, if you're, I almost said Jet Hoyer. If you're JJ Piccolo, you've got to get Chris Getz on the phone. You've got to get Jerry Reinsdorf on the phone. And you've got to say, hey, you know Balbo Avenue, downtown Chicago, the strong Italian heritage that exists in the city of Chicago. Can I interest you in a pitcher by the name of Frank Mazzucato? You might get Garrett Crochet back for that. Like, straight up.
I mean, worth a try. Honestly, when I saw what the return was for the White Sox for giving away 3 of their most valuable trade chips, Eric Fetty, Michael Kopech, and Tommy Pham, won't be seeing them no more. They're not going to play this week against the Royals because they've all been traded, and the White Sox got 3 prospects for those 3 guys. And yeah, after seeing that return, I would be on the phone to Chris Getz immediately and say, hey, like, what do you want? Chances are we'll be willing to meet your sales price. So what do you want?
I would think so. Yeah, it doesn't even make sense. You're not getting nothing for the future. You're not getting anything for the now. You're not even getting anything for the long-term future. I don't understand it. By comparison's sake, and I know that we'll get to the move for Michael Lorenzen here for the Royals in a moment. The reaction to that, by comparison, looks downright rosy. The reaction to that move relative to what White Sox fans and just the baseball public is feeling about that trade.
So we have a lot of Royals to talk about. We are going to talk about the weekend that was when the Royals had an opportunity for a series win, much like the Arizona series before it, and exactly like the Arizona series before it. The bullpen let the Royals down, and they drop a pair of games on the weekend. 5-4 on a homestand that we all said 6-3 was pretty necessary.
Yep.
5-4 is what you got. There's no such thing as a bad homestand, but it's definitely a missed opportunity for the Royals. They did not want to miss an opportunity in the trade market, and they went and acquired Michael Lorenzen. We mentioned that. I think this is leaning towards a little used pitching strategy for the Royals that I think is going to help them over the long haul, given some of the results we've seen lately from their two best guys at the front of the rotation. There are no pit stops in baseball. You can't change 4 tires. You can't refuel and get back out on the track. No, man, you got to finish the race. And as good as Cole Reagans and Seth Lugo have been this year, we're starting to see that tread wear bare on the tires. And as Michael Lorenzen addressed that, we'll discuss later on this hour. Also have lots of Kansas City Chiefs to discuss on today's show. A full weekend of training camp, another day up in St. Joe today, a miserably hot day in which the Chiefs did not put on the pads, a 10-10-10 day, they call those. We're going to hear from defensive coordinator Steve Spagnuolo later on this hour. He spoke to the media. We'll also hear from Creed Humphrey and Trent McDuffie. Trent McDuffie might be one of my favorite Chiefs players to listen to talk. I think he's really intelligent. I think he's really thoughtful. I think he knows the game. I think he's aware and attentive of the things that go on around him. You don't get a ton of cliche from Trent McDuffie. You know, you don't get a lot of, we got to go out there, be physical, and execute. Like, there's substance to a lot of what Trent McDuffie has to say. So I like listening to him, and we're going to play him and Creed Humphrey later on in the 4 o'clock hour of this show. We will also have our NFL insider join the program, Matt Verderame from Sports Illustrated, SI.com. He'll join us at the bottom of the 3 o'clock hour, as he always does on Mondays here on 580 Sports Talk. And for the first time this Chiefs season at 5:25, our good friend Mitch Holthus will join us for the first of his training camp reports. Every day for the next month, we'll hear from Mitch, some choice cuts from camp, get his unique perspective as a longtime voice of the Kansas City Chiefs. Mitch Holthus' training camp reports brought to you by Hy-Vee and by Azure Credit Union. That's coming up at 5:25 today. So lots and lots of Chiefs content and NFL content to get to on today's show. Plus all the fun stuff you've come to know and expect from a Monday edition of the show. We got Good, Bad, and Ugly coming up at the 3 o'clock hour. A short week. In fact, this is the only day this week of What Is Wrong With You. We'll have our semifinals tomorrow and our championship Wednesday. And for the love of God, hold me to that because last month, that's not what happened. Last month, we blew right past the change of the month. And look, it'd be like that sometimes. This time, we're not going to do it. We got a short week. We got one story, and it will advance to the play-in game of tomorrow's What Is Wrong With You semifinals. We'll do a little Olympic roundup. Lots going on out in Paris. We'll have our 580 Sports Talk headlines, including a recap of all of those Major League Baseball moves. Plus, your thoughts, your comments, your questions. You can hit us up on the Top City Metal Supply text line. That's 785-272-9429. You can also comment on the YouTube live chat, and it's looking lively already. Hello to everybody who is already participating in the YouTube live chat. You can join us as you watch live on YouTube, the app, or the desktop website. 580 Sports Talk is the channel. Subscribe today. Doesn't cost you anything but a click, and you can interact with other listeners and be a part of the show today. Brendan, how was the K yesterday? As a visiting fan, you enjoyed yourself after a Cubs rubber game victory yesterday.
I had a great time. I'm going to tell you this much, and I know I wasn't at Star Wars night back in May, for example. I've never seen a line like there was to get in yesterday to the K. I was not expecting to get the absolutely badass giveaway they did. It was Salute to the Negro Leagues Day, so they had a Monarchs hat, not just like a flimsy paper thin one either. I get the real corduroy hat. It's awesome. I was not expecting to get one because the line, the right field gate was zigzagging in the parking lot and then wrapped starting to go around right field. Crazy line. So great crowd. Ton of people got out there. Rained a little bit. That wasn't super fun. But full up. And yeah, I'll tell you what, man, I always have a good time at the K. I don't understand why a foot-long brat is cheaper than a foot-long hot dog, but I'm not going to complain about it. And I had a really fun time as a baseball fan after about the first 3 innings. I texted my wife with, I think, 2 batters faced in the bottom of the first inning. We suck. We're absolutely losing this game, speaking of the Cubs. And they did not. I could not believe that the Cubs actually won that game. That was remarkable to me. I was actually hoping for a little bit like, oh, maybe I'll just see Cole Reagans throw a no-hitter, and that will make it all worthwhile. I got to be honest, kind of weird. It felt a little weird from the Royals in that game yesterday. I don't know how to describe the kind of energy, the kind of vibe I was getting from them, but it all started, I'll be completely honest with you, it all started with the third batter of the game. He had runners on first and second, nobody out. Javier Assad had just walked Michael Massey. Do you know how hard it is as a pitcher to walk Michael Massey? Like, we're talking peak Sal lack of walks.
He's walked twice in his last 2 games, which is almost matching his total in all of the other games prior to Saturday when he had walked all of 3 times.
Yeah, like, dude, it ain't happening. And he was not getting what he wanted at all when Bobby Witt came to I felt like that was going to be a disaster of an outing for Assad. And then Vinny Pasquantino came up and bunted. And then look, in terms of outcome, it worked. Moved everybody up. Hunter Renfroe knocked them both in. The result worked. But if you want to talk about process, here's a phrase for you to describe that. It sucked ass. Why are you bunting with Vinny Pasquantino? What in the world is that?
I think he was bunting for a hit. When I was watching it on TV, it looked to me like he saw the third baseman back and he was bunting for a hit. And look, we've seen...
You could beat Vinny to first base!
We have seen big galoots who bat from the left side and run like... What was your saying last week, Trenton? That he runs like he's got...
I said Hunter Renfroe runs like he's got 2 pulled hamstrings.
2 pulled hamstrings. Yeah, well, Pasquantino
still has bad range in right field. Like
Pasquantino's slower than that.
Might have a high ankle sprain or 2 along with it. Yeah. So
we've all seen the big sluggers catch the third baseman back, drop a bunt, keep the inning going, catch people by surprise.
But like I think it was next time up, he walloped one into right field, and I thought. You could have saved it out. You could have been.
Yeah.
It just.
I don't like you said, I don't like the process. The process was bad. That didn't make sense at the time. You have a starting pitcher on the ropes in a rubber game, and you give him a free out, essentially.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing about said big galoots. You know, they don't practice a lot. Bunting. Because nobody practices bunting anymore.
Yeah.
I sound like I'm 75 years old.
It's
saying
true.
That,
like that, especially now that pitchers don't bat. Truly nobody is practicing bunting anymore. So right from there, I thought this is kind of weird. And Reagans was, I thought, a little bit crisper than he had been his previous time. I mean, the fastball got up into the I saw it at 96. I might have gotten higher than that.
96 was as much as I saw it on the TV broadcast.
Yeah, so a little bit better with the velo yesterday than he had been his previous time out. He wasn't especially sharp. And look, I'll be honest with you, the Cubs offense is not good. And we threw out a lineup yesterday that, frankly, was really not good.
Except for Pete Crow Armstrong is apparently Rod Carew. So you got that going for you.
They entered yesterday batting 186. Like, sometimes that's baseball, I guess.
Yeah, that was the go-ahead hit. Crow Armstrong, the single with eyes, it just kind of kicked off the glove. I don't know if it maybe caught the cut of the grass or just the bottom part of Massey's glove. Would have been a tough play, certainly.
Yeah.
But, ground ball with eyes. And that all came after the Bodie double tied it way over Renfroe's head. Right? If you don't know why he's playing so shallow.
Especially when you have poor range and poor speed.
And a good arm.
Yes. No, I'm right there with you.
So an inning where it looks like you're going to get out of it. You've got 2 out. You've got the bottom third of the order coming up. Yeah, there's a runner in scoring position. But you've got a chance to put your foot down, get through the 6th. And Reagans instead doesn't do it. The Royals do nothing of note on offense the rest of the game. They did get Isbell to third in the 7th, but Massey struck out. And then James MacArthur had another tough outing in the 9th. We'll get to him in a little bit. But disappointing way to end this series. I'm not going to be Chicken Little over here after a winning homestand. There are 3 games against the Chicago White Sox coming up next. And I believe Christopher had this in the YouTube live chat. They've lost 14 consecutive games and just traded 3 of their best players today, including their only good relief pitcher.
While we're on the topic, may I bring up something real quick?
Yes.
They are tied currently on a 14-game losing streak, as you mentioned, which is tied for the longest losing streak in Chicago White Sox history, which dates back to 1901. It ties a streak that they set 2 months ago. And additionally, This is from Tom Fernelli, an avowed White Sox fan, CBS Sports college football writer. If you took out every other loss this season and only counted the losing streaks of 14 games for the White Sox, they would still be under 500. They would be 27-28 if you only counted 2 losing streaks. That's how pathetic this team is.
Really, really bad. And that's who the Royals have next. And they've got a chance to pick up a couple of more, maybe even 3 more wins.
They might lose to the Topeka Golden Giants right now. They really might.
So I'm not going to be Chicken Little because it's a winning homestand and you've got 3. Again, we talk about making your layups. Right now, the White Sox are a layup even on the road. But given that the Royals won the openers of both the Arizona and Chicago series, the Cubs series, before losing the next 2, given that the Royals staked their all-star left-hander to a 2-0 lead yesterday and couldn't finish the deal, given that the Guardians and the Twins showed no signs of slowing down during this stretch, there is no other way to look at this homestand as anything other than a missed opportunity. And that's even with the fact that the Royals remain in playoff position when they woke up today, a game ahead of the Red Sox, who are a mess and just lost 2 out of 3 to the Yankees. And
you were on top of that. I mean,
yeah.
you said it going, I think, into the All-Star break that you did not trust them at all.
No, they've been doing it with mirrors, and I think the wheels are starting to come off in Boston. So the Royals, as Trent points out in her notes, they've picked up 3 games on the Red Sox during that homestand. If the goal was move into playoff position, gain ground on the team right in front of you, closest to you in the standings, the Royals accomplished that even with a 5-4 homestand. But the Royals had every opportunity. They had it all lined up perfectly. Biggest crowd since opening day, 36,000 plus Friday night to see Salvador Perez hit that go-ahead home run in the 6-run 6th, as loud as the K has been all season. Another capital M moment for the captain and for this Royals team this year. But then I can only describe it this way. We hear about the hanging curveball and the hanging slider. If you wonder, is there such a thing as a hanging fastball? Go watch what Sam Long threw to Patrick Wisdom with the bases loaded on Saturday. That is the dictionary definition of a hanging fastball, or as others may call it, a gopher ball.
Right after Adrian Johnson tried to do his best Brian O'Nora impression behind the plate.
Yes, that was bad. Long had Dansby Swanson struck out and ended up walking in instead. Oh, that was Lugo. Yes, that's right.
Completely changes the whole inning.
It did. And that's twice now on this homestand in an important game late that ball strike umpiring has been particularly costly to the Royals. I don't blame the Royals one bit if they feel a little bit aggrieved. But this continues after the loss yesterday, a season-long trend that I don't know what to make of, frankly. In their last 14 rubber games, that's the decisive game of a 3-game series. I don't know the origin, the etymology of that term necessarily, but it's the rubber game. Team A wins the first, Team B wins the second. The series is on the line in game 3 of the series. We call it the rubber game. And in the Royals' last 14 rubber games, they're 3-11. And it doesn't square for me with a team that we know to be pretty resilient, pretty tough in the late innings. We've seen lots of dramatic comebacks for this team. We've seen some exciting wins for this team. So it's really strange to me that when faced with games that are as must-win as they get during a regular season from April to July, they have performed this poorly. And I don't know that there's one reason for it, which I suppose isn't hot-takey enough to make good sports radio. So I throw it out to either of you, Brendan, Trenton. Why in the world can't the Royals win a decisive game in a series?
I have no idea, but Christopher reminded me that the Royals haven't won a Tuesday game since like May 21st. So bet the White Sox money line tomorrow.
Rubber days and Tuesdays always bring them down. Very well done, Christopher, in the YouTube live chat. Very well done.
Yeah, I don't know that there is a reasonable explanation for it, honestly. I mean,
could you put it on cue? You win one game based off talent, like you said. I think you said it a couple weeks ago before the All-Star break. A 3-game series, one team wins decisively, the other team wins decisively. The third game is the one that's up in the air.
Typically, that's how they go.
Is it a manager problem? Maybe is Q getting out? Is he getting outmaneuvered on the chessboard?
I think it's a fair question to ask. Absolutely.
I lean no, but it's worth asking. These are the games that are won and lost on the margins, and the Royals aren't winning those marginal affairs
because they punted Saturday's game with the lineup they put out.
It was not a good, again, like we talked about last week, the Royals are sending out some very poor lineups against left-handed starting pitchers, and when the left-handed starting pitcher you're dealing with is an all-star, that's a tough draw. Now, they did well enough against Imanaga, well enough to win that game, frankly, until the bullpen meltdown and the grand slam in the 7th, and then the 2 runs they got off of Bubic there in the 9th. But yeah, the marginal stuff is not going the Royals' way to finish these games. And I don't know that there's any one thing. I mean, sometimes it's luck. Sometimes Patrick Wisdom misses that hanging fastball by a grain, and it's a lazy fly ball that's caught by Kyle Isbell, and 6 out later, the Royals are shaking hands. Maybe Adrian Johnson gets strike 1 and strike 2, or 2 and 3 correct on the Dansby Swanson at bat, and the inning never gets to Patrick Wisdom.
Yeah, I want to point out, too, that I think I don't want to hand wave the frustration from this series because it is irritating. I mean, you look at the teams they were facing. You look, I hate to be the, well, my team sucks guy, but the Cubs offense is not good. The Cubs have been shut out 3 times in the first 6 games after the All-Star break. It's not a good offense. But so I get the frustration, and I think it's fair. But I think the reason I wouldn't put it on any one person or any one entity in particular, I'll go to that Patrick Wisdom grand slam. Sam Long, would we agree that you can at least argue he's been the best relief pitcher on balance for the Royals this year?
He's pitched very well. He's had a nice year. Nice little free talent find by these Royals.
Okay, so only
the 2nd home run he's given up in 22 appearances.
On 4-seam fastballs this year, okay? 4-seamers, Patrick Wisdom is batting .231 with an expected slugging percentage. How hard he hits the ball, where he hits it, all those things. Expected slugging percentage under 300. If you have an actual slugging percentage under 300, you are either just god awful or you're Nicky Lopez. Like, which, do with that what you will. Like, that is the kind of success he has had on 4-seamers this year. He's actually a better off-speed and breaking ball hitter. He's been really good against sliders this year and has been okay against traditional curveballs as well. He's been pretty much a net 0, at least according to StatCast numbers, against 4-seamers this year. More often than not, that is a lazy fly ball or a pop-up or a whiff or something like that. We're talking, fractions of centimeters difference in positioning, in release point, in spin, etc.
And to your point,
and you're out of the inning.
And to your point about Wisdom, we saw we did with hanging slider on Sunday afternoon when he hit it over 2 of the 3 walls in center field off of McCarthy.
Monster shot.
Yeah, big home run. But
it's literally all he does.
So yeah, that's Wisdom's game, right? It's kind of like Rob Deere-ish. It's very all or nothing. It's very like Joey Gallo's kind of the modern comparison there, where
mash or strikeout.
Yes, you're going to hit the ball a long way, or you're going to swing and miss. And we saw the swing and miss in Wisdom's game at times this weekend. And I think the plan was a good one for Sam Long. I remember back to the at bat, he missed inside with a couple of sliders, hard sliders. That's what you want to do with a power hitter. Don't let them get their hands extended. What happens when you throw a fastball outer middle third? The arms get extended. And what happens when a power hitter arms get extended? You get to go around the bases at your leisure. That was a bad pitch. It was bad process. It was a bad result for Sam Long. And when we come back, we're going to take a first break here on 580 Sports Talk. I don't know if it's bad news or not. We're going to talk about the trade. Royals made a trade today. They acquired Michael Lorenzen. I'm going to say what I think they're going to do with Lorenzen. And I've got some news about the bullpen, who had a DEFCON 2 disaster yesterday with Hunter Harvey leaving hurt, John Schreiber leaving hurt and probably headed to the injured list, and James McArthur having another miserable outing. Bad as it gets for the bullpen. I have some bad news about that group. Like Norman Dale in Hoosier says, my team is on the floor. Your bullpen's in the bullpen. I'll explain why when we come back. We're just getting things rolling on this Monday edition of 580 Sports Talk Live from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio here on 580 WIBW. 2:32 on 580 Sports Talk. While we were at the break, the Royals made a transaction. They have placed reliever John Schreiber on the 15-day injured list with a right patellar tendon injury.
Oh, man, you want to talk about when it rains, it pours yesterday. Goodness gracious.
So he is headed to the IL. Will Klein is on his way up. I like Will Klein's arm. I haven't loved his first couple of big league appearances, but I think he's 24. It might be something there. He's going to get some chances because right now the Royals are a little short. I can't imagine they'll want to use MacArthur tonight if they don't have to. Hunter Harvey left yesterday with back spasms. Now, importantly, crucially, he was not placed on the injured list, or at least hasn't been yet. So J.J. Piccolo, when he spoke yesterday, and we'll tell you what he was talking about in just a bit, mentioned that they felt better about Harvey's injury being short-term than they did about Schreiber. So hopefully Harvey can take it easy for a couple of days, find his command. Maybe the back issue has been, or certainly yesterday was the reason he couldn't throw a strike, and hopefully get him back on the bump. But
they better use Klein, because if Harvey isn't going on the IL, Lorenzen in a couple of days is just going to send Klein down. So if he's going to be on the team, you might as well use him, right? Especially if you're shorthanded.
I agree with that.
Yeah, no, they should use him, and they should be up by enough that they don't worry about using Will Klein, because they're playing the White Sox, and the White Sox are a poopy diaper of a baseball team. That being said, you just mentioned Michael Lorenzen. He's the newest Kansas City Royal. He was acquired earlier this afternoon. Royals sending left-handed reliever Walter Pennington to the Rangers in exchange. First off, one clap for the former Colorado School of Mines standout, Walter Pennington. Made himself a prospect this season. Made his big league debut in Denver a few weeks back. He'll always have that, even if he never gets back to the major leagues. He's pitched in the big leagues in his home state, which was a very cool moment for him. Near as I can figure, the Royals see Pennington as a guy who is a bit one note, and that one note might be really good against lefties, but maybe doesn't have anything for the right-handed hitters. It's not premium velocity. It's a good fastball. It's a good slider, but it might not be good enough to feel good about him being a leverage piece in the bullpen long term. So they were willing to trade Pennington today, and they received Michael Lorenzen, who you may have forgotten last year was an all-star for the Detroit Tigers, because somebody had to be. But Lorenzen really wasn't all that bad. He was 5-7 with a 3.58 ERA and 18 starts with the Tigers before being traded to the Philadelphia Phillies, whereupon he threw a no-hitter while wearing Vans. So that was a thing that happened. Unfortunately, the rest of his time in Philadelphia didn't go nearly as well. A 5.51 ERA in 11 games, 7 starts. This year, because Texas has been so down bad with pitching injuries, Lorenzen has had to start 18 starts in 19 appearances. It's the third year in a row he's had more starts than relief appearances, which had not been the case for him since his rookie year of 2015. And in those games, he's 5-6 with a 3.81 earned run average, 101 2/3 innings, 75 strikeouts to 48 walks, so he's not going to blow it by you, and he might miss the strike zone. The fielding independent numbers do not like him. His FIP, if you will, is 5.16, suggesting he's been very lucky to even put together an ERA in the upper threes. But you are not acquiring Michael Lorenzen to be a shutdown bullpen arm. You are not acquiring Michael Lorenzen, I do not believe, to supplant Seth Lugo and Cole Reagans at the top of the rotation. No, I think the Royals acquired Michael Lorenzen today because they need to ease off the gas on their two best pitchers. Cole Reagans, whose fastball velocity continues to drop. He was back up around 96 yesterday, but the trend line is not good. And Seth Lugo, who hasn't been very good this month. And two pitchers who are approaching career highs in innings pitched, who are so important. They are so instrumental to the success of this ball club. I think that the Royals are going to start Lorenzen and go to a 6-man rotation here. I think they'll go to a 6-man rotation, 7-man bullpen. Bubic can give them multiple innings when they get around to doing that. He can be a guy who gives you more than one inning. And I think Chris Stratton over the course of his career has proven that in a pinch, he can give you multiple innings. And I think that's the plan. I think that's what they're going to do. Like, is it super inspiring? I don't think so. But is it worth it to run Michael Lorenzen out there and have him get some of the outs that are still left to get? There are approximately 504 innings left in the Royals season, not counting any postseason play. 504 innings. That's 9 times 56, which is how many games they have left starting tonight.
Good math.
Thank you. I did that earlier. It wasn't off the top of my head. I would love to take credit for it, but it wasn't. Anyhow, 504 innings left in this season.
You don't need to be truthful.
I don't. Nobody can see except for the people watching on the YouTube. Hi, guys. I think that this is a move to lengthen out the starting pitching rotation. And if you get more out of Lugo and Reagans down the stretch, more quality innings, I will take that over quantity and sticking with a 5-man rotation. Even if that means you go with a guy in Lorenzen who, might struggle to get you through 5 every now and again. So I think this is the move. I think that's what they're doing.
If they went 6-man rotation, and let's say the Royals just throw, 54 games or whatever we decide, 56. They throw 56 consecutive complete games over 9 innings. That'd be 84 innings per pitcher if they went to a 6-man rotation, compared to almost 101 if they stayed at a 5-man rotation. So you are cutting down the innings by about 3 games maybe worth.
Yeah, it's 2 or 3 fewer starts. And I think for
everyone,
Lugo will likely surpass his career high in innings pitched with his next start. He's at 142 and a third. Reagans is at 128 and a third.
I hope he does.
He's already blown past his career high. Quality, I think, is more important than quantity down the stretch when you're talking about the war of attrition that getting enough outs to win a baseball game and get it across the line can be. I think that's what the addition of Lorenzen is. I don't think there are any misconceptions about who Lorenzen is or how good he's going to be. It'd be wonderful if he gave these Royals a jolt. It bears mentioning that his career OPS plus is higher than the current OPS pluses of Michael Garcia, MJ Melendez, Adam Frazier, Nick Lofton, Garrett Hampson, and Dairon Blanco.
It's also tied with the career OPS plus of Michael Massey.
He's a good hitter, is what we're saying.
Yeah.
And
he's played 96 innings of outfield in his career.
Maybe he's a pinch hitter off the bench. Who can say? But I think that's what this is.
Isn't Lorenzen the guy when he was on the Reds, like he just had someone die in his family and he went out and threw like 8 innings in a win and hit a home run? Or he like came out of the bullpen and hit a home run off someone?
Something like that.
I'm going to have to look that up.
Do we know he's starting?
We don't. And JJ Piccolo was very sly about it when talking to the media earlier today.
Because
non-committal.
He's made just shy of 90 starts in his career with, I believe it's somewhere around 270-something relief appearances in his career.
But he's been a regular starter each of the last 3 seasons.
He has been, and maybe he wants to be a starter. The flip side of that, of course, is who cares if you make him mad? He's a rental. Like, it's not like you're ruining a long-term relationship. He's going to be in free agency in 3 months anyway.
That's exactly what this is. This is a rental. And speaking of rentals, we're going to Blockbuster. Man, I wish. I miss Blockbuster. There were some other trades this weekend for relief pitchers. Jason Adam, Overland Park kid, went from the Rays to the Padres. The Padres traded 2 top 10 prospects to get a reliever with this year and 2 more of team control. Carlos Estevez went from the Angels to the Phillies, and the Phillies gave the Angels 2 really interesting pitching prospects, 2 guys who've been among the best in their system this season. And I think the returns in the trades for those guys, both a reliever with team control and 9th inning experience and a reliever with no team control and 9th inning experience, should make it pretty plain to the Royals that in the back end, what you got is what you got. I don't think there are any more significant upgrades that the Royals can reasonably make because they do not have the juice to go make a trade like those Estevez and Adam trades, especially if they're going to use what little juice they do have to add to the lineup, which they should. So Sam Long, you better rebound from Saturday. James MacArthur, you better get a whole lot better. Hunter Harvey, John Schreiber, get healthy. Get in the training room, get in the tub, and get back on the mound because there are some big outs still to be recorded down the stretch. Those 4 guys are going to have to get them. There's no Carlos Estevez coming. There's no Jason Adam or Pete Fairbanks. I think they're to borrow the line from Norman Dale when they're down to 4 players in Hoosiers. My team is on the floor. Matt Quatrero, your bullpen is in the bullpen. You got who you got.
That's why I am questioning myself. Like, should Lorenzen be starting? Like, they might need a dude to pitch the 7th inning every other day.
I get what you're saying. The flip side of that is
realistically, he's probably going to start, but they might have to move some guys around.
Yesterday was his first appearance as a reliever all year. He had, in the 4 innings he pitched yesterday out of the bullpen, was his first and only. He's made 19 appearances this year, 18 starts. And Yeah. So he's been primarily a starter this year.
And 3 years in a row, because I think 22 was his first year where he was starting full time. And I mean, shoot, he was an all-star starter last year.
And here's the thing about him. He's a tough son of a gun because 2 days ago, he started against the Blue Jays, didn't make it out of the first inning, got lit up through 40 pitches in 2/3 of an inning. Yesterday, his team needed him because John Gray couldn't make his start. He left the game without throwing an official pitch. He was injured and left the game during pregame warmups. So the Rangers needed someone to soak innings, and not only did Lorenzen do that, he did it well in the final 4 innings of the game. Like, team first guy, hell of a competitor, great story, as you kind of alluded to, Trenton. He's going to be a guy who's really easy to root for, plus he wears Vans. That's kind of cool. But I don't think he's a reliever, not with a 7.5 career strikeouts per 9. That just exacerbates the problem the Royals bullpen has had all year long. They can't miss bats. This is a guy who I think is going to sop up some innings in bulk because it's getting harder for Reagans and Lugo and even like a guy like Singer and Marsh to sop those innings effectively. We'll take a quick break here on 580 Sports Talk. On the other side, we'll pivot to the Kansas City Chiefs, and we'll hear from defensive coordinator Steve Spagnuolo, who spoke after training camp practice in St. Joe yesterday. That's coming up from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. This is 580 Sports Talk. A lot of Chiefs content today here on 580 Sports Talk. We'll talk about the latest news and notes from camp to start the next hour. Matt Verderame, our NFL insider, will join us. Mitch Holthus will join us at 5:25, our first training camp update of the 2024 season. Always a thrill to talk to Mitch. We'll have him on later on in the show today. And we'll get audio from training camp. Creed Humphrey and Trent McDuffie spoke to the press earlier today. But first, we're going to hear from Chiefs defensive coordinator Steve Spagnuolo.
Thought the guys stepped it up after that, after we challenged them in meetings. And then today was the 10-10-10. So it was kind of more execution and mental. We got a long way to go. We got a lot of guys banged up. So we're kind of working through that. But with that, I'll just open it up and fire away.
There's been every day a different defensive leader yesterday Drew was kind of chippy and getting into it. George has had a day, Nick has had a day. Is that just something that this defense does? Or?
Well, I mean, I'm hoping that's a thread of all defenses. I'm certainly hoping it's a thread of ours. I don't think there's anything wrong with being chippy as long as we remember that we're all on the same team and that there's some respect there. And I think our guys handle that pretty good. I mean, we didn't get no fisticuffs yet, right? So nobody wants to encourage that. But listen, the game's physical, and the one thing we have conveyed to them is, especially the vets, like when you add up the number of plays they get in the 3 preseason games, I don't know, let's say it's 35 to 50, but you might be a DB that never gets to make a tackle. So somewhere you got to work on it, and to me, it's out here when you have pads on, and so we do what we call wrap and release, and that kind of maybe leads to some of that. But I think the offensive guys have been good about it.
Where does that kind of go with Nick? I know it's there that you are preaching right now, no on and off switches always.
Yeah.
Does that kind of go with that?
Yeah, he knows that picture that I put up. It has that the switch has an on that plate and an off. Well, the off's crossed out. And they know when they step on the field. I mean, that's how you have to play. I mean, when you take plays off, we don't get enough of them. We have a lot of walkthroughs. So the reps that we do get in the morning, we got to take advantage of, and they got to be full speed.
Coach, I'm not really seeing from Felix.
Felix? Yeah, I think Felix has gotten a little bit better every day. I think there was a couple practices there. He struggled a little bit. I think his confidence is better. The last 2 days, he's been pretty good. Like today, I thought he made – yesterday and today, I thought he did pretty good without watching the tape. I thought he had some good plays.
Coach, your top 3 linebackers, Bolton, Tranquil, and then Leo, just role-wise, how do you kind of see them?
Yeah, I mean, look, those are our base linebackers. Those are the 3. Then we try to get them in, mix them in there sometimes, and other downs and distances, possible third down. I think all 3 of those guys have certain skill sets that we would like to use. Get them out there. Now, when you got 3 linebackers in there, somebody's coming out. There's one less DB or there's one less D lineman. So we got to work our way through that. But one of the things we do like being is multiple. And when guys can play different positions, like Leo, he's kind of all over the place. Drew is, and Drew's got to play some Mike linebacker. And yeah, you get to about next week. I talked about it with the staff the other day. You got to start thinking about guys in dual roles now, because pretty soon it's not whatever the number is out there, 90. It's not 90 guys anymore, and all of a sudden our number of guys shrinks. So guys are going to have dual responsibilities.
There are a couple of corners who are hurt right now. So Kelvin Joseph's getting a pretty good run. What have you seen from him so far?
Yeah, Kelvin, I don't know if you know, he had a baby, so he was gone for a little bit. We lost him there, so he was a little bit behind. He's playing catch up now. He's getting some work with the ones. He made a couple of plays yesterday, so he earned that. But he's going to be right in the thick of the things with the other corner. I mean, you need 3 of them. And he's made enough plays, I think, to warrant working with that first group.
Steve, with Drew, Trent specifically, I know last year, but him and Nick sharing the field together, all that frequently. How do you see the dynamic of them both?
You say sharing the field out here.
Yeah, Drew and Nick.
Yeah, listen, the one thing about both those guys is they're both very cerebral, very smart. So I think they feed off each other that way. That goes a long way when I'll bet if you ask D linemen, they'd tell you that they appreciate the guys that are behind them are really sharp. They're ahead of things. Watch out for this motion, watch out for that shift. They change a D lineman here. And when you got 2 guys can do that instead of just one, I think it makes everything go a little bit like that. And I think the rest of the defense knows that about those 2 guys and really rely on them. I mean, I'll watch DBs go over and ask Drew and Nick questions about it. It might even be playing DB or something in the defense because they know that those 2 guys know exactly what's going on.
Seems like Brian Cook has had a pretty good game.
Yeah, we missed him when he got hurt last year. But the one thing about Brian is he goes 100 miles an hour all the time. He'll tell you he was a little bit rusty getting back into it, but I think it's kind of smooth out for him right now.
Let's wrap it up. We'll start with Saran and then go over Matt.
Is it important, I know you're trying to replace Legarius and talk about how tough that is and everything, but you want a 1 and a 2 and a 3, or do you see a scenario where maybe your depth comes into play and it could be matchup driven as to who's that, or is it important to have kind of that pecking order of where guys are?
Well, we know who our number 1 is, right? We all know that. And we're just trying to find guys, and we're going to have to find our next 2 best players, however that works out. I mean, we know NJ Nazi's dealing with his little injury right now. Josh has been out there. Kelvin, there's a lot of guys mixing in there. But somebody's got to surface, and if not, it gets tough. You know, you can have the best pass rush in the world, but these receivers get open quick if you're not able to cover them. So we got some developing to do. We certainly miss LJ, but somebody's got to step up there and take that play. I'm waiting for somebody to, assert themselves and say that, I'm that guy that can do it. Nah, we got a little ways to go on that, in my opinion. Yeah.
When you were telling the guys about having one of the best defenses in the league and then having a disappointing year the next year, did you want to see? Are you seeing what you wanted to see? That fire, that chippiness, and what are other things you want to see?
I would say yes on that. I know what you're talking about because I conveyed that to them. I mean, look, we all learn from experiences, and I'm always sharing that with them. And so that was an experience that I went through, and my promise to them was I was going to do everything I could to make sure that didn't happen again. And that kind of began with how we operate in practice. That's the on-off switch, which we've always had. But I just wanted them to realize that just because you can't sit on what you did last year, it doesn't automatically happen. And we got a lot of work to do. Got some. We're talking about players we got to fill in for, and we got a long way to go before we figure that part out.
Trent is so good at just about everything, Steve. Is this a period?
It's a good statement.
Yeah, it is.
And it's a true statement.
Is this a period or a time where you're asking him to be more aggressive in terms of what you mentioned, last time we talked to you about takeaways, trying to get your hands on the ball?
Trent in particular, you said? Yeah. He's got a natural feel for all of that. And, I mean, look, he's waiting for his first NFL interception, right? I mean, but I told him this before. He got voted – when did he get voted All-Pro by his peers last year? I thought that was the hugest compliment to a DB that did not have an interception. Because that tells you all you need to know. So to your point, he does a lot of things really good. And I'll guarantee you he's got his eyeballs on trying to get a couple of picks this year. But the other thing he does a really good job of is he's created some fumbles by having a knack for getting it out. We need all of that from all those guys.
What's the value of these 10-10-10 days for you?
Yeah, more mental than anything. I think we went 3 straight days with pads. And I think Coach Reed would tell you the same thing. It's a good way to get a lot of work done, right? But take a little bit of the physicality off. And it was about time with our guys, and now they'll have the day off, and I think it works out pretty good. Yeah. It's a little agonizing for me sometimes because you can't do anything physically.
That was Steve Spagnuolo, Chiefs defensive coordinator, speaking earlier today. Some praise for Felix Anudike-Uzomah. A lot of people are talking about Felix. Slow start to the camp, but has really come on, really flashed, especially as a pass rusher.
Yeah, I know there's been some talk that a lot of the good has come against a left tackle group that right now has a lot of question marks itself. But I would stop the analysis right there and say, who did he flash against last year? No one. So if there's a group that he is flashing against and not just flashing, but looking really good against, that's a win. That's good. Not every team has an elite left tackle. I will take that, especially for a guy who is still trying to get up to size, who is going to be your third and maybe fourth rotational guy this year. I'm cool with that. I can live with that.
Still to come on today's show, we'll hear from Creed Humphrey and Trent McDuffie. We'll also talk to the voice of the Chiefs, Mitch Holthus, for our first training camp report of the season. Coming up in the 3 o'clock hour, some news and notes from Chiefs training camp, including an injury to Chris Jones. And we'll talk to our NFL insider, Sports Illustrated's Matt Verderame. That's all coming up from the from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio on this edition of 580 Sports Talk. Let's get it. 580 Sports Talk, hour number 2 on this Monday edition. Dan Lucero, Brendan Dworzinski, and Trent Craxner is your crew so far today. Spencer Dupuis did make it back from out east. It took a little more time than he had hoped, but did eventually get on a plane, get back to KCI and or MCI, I guess. And he is back in the building. He will be along a little bit later on. So the gang will all be here for this Monday edition of 580 Sports Talk.
I always call it KCI. MCI just makes me think of the old telecom company.
Yes. They weren't the 1-800-COLLECT people, I don't believe. I think it was just 1-800-COLLECT.
Yeah.
But that's what I think. I think of that era, like MCI.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They had the little star above the eye.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah. Formerly WorldCom. Yeah.
Yeah. Google WorldCom. That's a trip. Anyhow, we are with you today from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio on 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online, 580WIBW.com, and our video stream. You can catch it on Facebook. WIBW News is the page. You can catch us on YouTube. The YouTube channel is 580 Sports Talk. Subscribe today if you haven't already. Tell your friends. Tell your enemies. Tell anybody you are within earshot of to subscribe to 580 Sports Talk on YouTube. Watch the show. Chat along with the lovely people who are watching the show along live with us. Or you can text the program, 785-272.com, 785-272. My brain is fried, man. My brain is
That's
fried.
right. Just
Dad brain. Dad brain.
There have been a couple of times in the last couple of days at the gymnastics at the Olympics where people have fallen off the bars or off the beam or whatever, and they wait. They get kind of like a Bronx cheer from the crowd, sort of, and then they get back on and they finish their routine.
I'll imagine the Bronx cheer then.
Yeah.
The Top City Metal Supply text line is 785-272-9429. From construction sites to renovations, from the farm to the garage, Top City Metal Supply understands the value of precision and cost efficiency. No more wasted materials, no more wasted money, just metal cut to the exact size you need. Top City Metal Supply is located on South Topeka Boulevard, just north of Forbes Field.
You were correct. MCI did launch 1-800-COLLECT.
Hey.
Also,
I got that, but I can't read the phone number for the Top City Metal Supply text line. So that again, brain fog.
It happens. MCI is now what we know as Verizon for Business.
Okay.
They bought it and then turned it into their business brand. So there you go.
In the ongoing rush to make sure that there are only 5 companies.
You want a 90s company? Here are people who starred in commercials for 1-800-COLLECT.
Oh, man, this will be good.
Phil Hartman.
R.I.P.
Wayne Knight. Mr. T. and Arsenio Hall.
Hey, Mr. T is still doing commercials.
Mr. T is
He's
still
doing,
doing
what is they called? The Skechers. The slip-ins. Your boy might be reaching slip-in age. I'm approaching washed so fast you can't even believe it. I've already got a pair of Skechers. It's just not the kind that you don't have to tie yet. Give it time.
Some athletes have Skechers deals. Oh, I know why you have Skechers. Your favorite basketball player reps them.
Is that Joel Embiid? Is
It
he
is.
a Skechers guy?
Yeah, it is.
Suddenly things make a lot more sense.
I don't know if it was Nike or Adidas had him and then kind of let him walk near the end of his, like right before he actually started playing 60 games a year, and he ended up with Skechers.
So a couple of show notes real fast here before we get into some Chiefs talk. First of all,
Puma, man, come on.
Michael Porter Jr. is a Puma guy. I don't know who else is.
DeAndre Ayton.
Oh yeah,
he's a Puma guy.
Okay, cool. That's the cool brand, obviously. Couple of show notes to pass along. First, who's a big rodeo fan out there? Because we've got the Big 94 Country Topeka PRC Rodeo coming up August 23rd and 24th of this month out at the North Topeka Saddle Club. And we are giving away family 4-packs of tickets to go see the rodeo. And we're going to do that throughout this week here on the program. So be listening for your cue to call. And we'll hook up some lucky listeners with family 4-packs of tickets to the PRCA Rodeo.
Sounds awesome.
North
Sounds like
Topeka.
a great time.
Have you ever been to a rodeo?
I never have. No, I've shared the story before, but I went to the first time I went to Newton. I've shared stories of that trip before, but we were driving into town, and I said, "Oh, is that where the football field used to be?" Because I thought it was like a torn up,
right,
rectangle,
a grandstand with no grass. Yes.
And my buddy went, "Brendan, that's the rodeo grounds." And I was like, "Oh, whoops,
man, we got city boy stories we could share.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
City boys were down at that moment.
Yeah, suburb.
City boys back up since, but yeah.
Suburban dwellers like you and me. Yeah, maybe didn't recognize a rodeo ground when we saw it at first. But no, we've got some tickets to the PRCA rodeo. I went to the Buffalo Bill rodeo up in North Platte, which I think is like the oldest ongoing rodeo, oldest annual rodeo. I don't know if it still is. But I got the Buffalo Bill rodeo up there for Nebraska Land Days in North Platte, and I lived there for 4 years, worked there. And so I went to the rodeo one year. I had what they call a catch pen pass, which is not actually like in the pen with the animals. I was very confused why I was being led to what was essentially like a luxury box, except you couldn't see anything. And it was just a place to drink for free. So did I attend the rodeo? Yes. Did I see much of the rodeo? No. Do I remember much of the rodeo? Also no. But that is another story for another time. Another show note to pass along. We're going to be on location on Friday. We're taking this show on the road. We're going up to the Firekeeper Golf Course out by Prairie Band Casino and Resort. We're going up to the Firekeeper Golf Course because Washburn Athletics is holding their yearly golf tournament, and we are going to be there. The Washburn Kickoff Classic. It's a 2-day event, Thursday and Friday. I'm playing Friday morning. I am going to be out there hacking the ball around Firekeeper. I do not know if it is a privilege my game deserves. I guess we'll find out. But I will be there on Friday morning playing, and then from 2 to 5, the gang will be out there at Firekeeper, and we'll be talking to Washburn Athletic folks and helping to promote the second day of the Washburn Kickoff Classic put on by the Ichabod Athletic Fund. Again, that's a 2-day event, Thursday the 1st, Friday the 2nd at Firekeeper Golf Course. And for more information on that event, including the live auction, you might want to go to woosports.com, wusports.com right now.
Yeah, all sorts of really cool stuff that are being auctioned off by Washburn. Some various different, team events, some other cool experiences. I mean, there's all sorts of awesome stuff. So go check it out. Pretty much every Washburn website will link you there right now. If you just go to woosports.com, you can find the direct link to it as well.
Let's move on.
Are you going to win?
Oh, no. Maybe if we play.
What is this lack of confidence?
Well, I don't know who I'm playing with.
Put him on your back.
I don't have that kind of game. I don't have quite enough game for that.
With that attitude.
Well, yeah, probably not. Text from 785 to the Top Seed Mail Supply text line. Have Jake and I ever played together, and who would win? The answer to those questions, yes. And at this point, it is up in the air because I don't think Jake, as father of two, gets to play quite as much as he used to. I can tell you this, when he was not a father of two, he would clean my clock. Jake's got game. Jake had a single-digit handicap at one point. He can really play.
Jake can really play. I'm going to tell you this. I don't think I'm selling him up the river or anything. Jake has moved into a new line of work since his final show here at 580 Sports Talk and WWW Radio. Jake is also in a line of work where occasionally you can have meetings outside the office.
This is true.
So I do have it on good authority. Jake has made at least a couple of trips to the links.
Okay.
In recent months.
So he's playing more. That means he's playing more than me as the father of a newborn who does not have that privilege.
When is the last time you played?
It was 2 weekends ago. But I've only played like 3 times this summer. I'm playing Friday and then I'm playing against Sunday. Yeah, playing with the.
I guess you went with your father-in-law.
Yes, my father-in-law, my brother-in-law. My father-in-law lives up north in Meriden, and they got a membership at Village Green, so we'll go play Village Green sometimes, bright and early in the morning, which is a lot easier for me to do now that, again, father of an infant. I haven't played a ton. No, Jake would wash me. Jake would absolutely clean my clock. I think we might make a decent team because he hits it real long, and he also putts pretty well and is good at the short game, and I am a great hang. So I think that would make us a successful 2-man scramble team.
Bring the little guy along.
Should the need ever arise.
It'd be fun.
It would be fun. Ash not so little these days. Coming up on 8 weeks. He's nearing 14 pounds. We're already up to size 2 in diapers. He's enormous. I don't know what I've got on my hands. Do I have a first baseman? Do I have a defensive tackle? Like what's the deal? So that is some show news for you. Stay tuned for your chance to win those rodeo tickets, and come catch us if you're at the Washburn golf event. Come find us from 2 to 5. We'll be in the clubhouse at Firekeeper doing the show live.
And Dan has a huge child.
That is, yes, that is breaking news. Perhaps. Man, I never talk about it. Joe in the YouTube comments, I don't know if there was sarcasm there asking, but if there was, I understand because I probably bring it up a little too often. But yes, I do.
I think you do the proper amount. You're not.
I'm trying.
You are definitely not like, oh, that's nice. Here, let me show you 15 pictures of my kids from yesterday. You're not that guy.
Would you like to see some pictures of my kid? We can do that during the next time.
I mean, I'm fine with it.
I got a nice little photo book on my desk, and you do. You try not to make it like, oh, now I'm a dad and it's my whole personality. Because that is true to a large extent. It does become a great big part of your personality, but no, we're here to talk sports, and I promise we're going to get into that here. This hour, we got the good, bad, ugly from the weekend, and our NFL insider, Matt Verderame, will join us at the bottom of the hour to talk all things NFL. We'll get his thoughts from Chiefs camp and other camps around the league. Let's start with some Chiefs news and notes, and we can just kind of pick from the topics du jour from the last couple of days. First off, Chris Jones is not practicing, and it is a groin injury. And Andy Reid, I feel like, would be playful enough to put it in quotes if it was not a real injury and if it was just some vet rest that they were trying to couch under the guise of an injury. This seems to be an actual groin injury for Chris Jones. So what's our concern level there? It's only July 29th. Obviously, him missing camp and even the first week of the season last year did not make him any less of a menace in the middle. But for a guy who was excited about being in camp, excited about being a leader in camp this year with the big contract, I wouldn't call it ideal, but I also wouldn't say I'm panicking yet or anything.
Honestly, I'm not worried at all. I'm not. Are you going to be ready week one? Are you going to be ready for Baltimore? That's all I care about with Chris Jones. That's all I care about with Travis Kelce. It's all I care about with Patrick Mahomes. It's all I care about with Trent McDuffie. With most of these guys, honestly, just get there for week one. And honestly, I'm cool if Chris Jones does 1 day on, 1 day off at training camp. I'm worried about him being effective when the season gets here. He didn't go to camp. He worked out himself with his goofy ass agents all summer, and he was fine. Week 2, he came out and he was one of the best players on the field when the Chiefs beat the Jaguars. His last year, do you remember what he did in his first 5 games of the season?
First 5 games of the season?
First 5 games of the season.
He had a sack every game, didn't he?
5.5 sacks in 5 weeks.
I remember that.
Fresh off of 0 OTAs, 0 minicamp, 0 training camp, did not play week 1, came in as cold as can be, and immediately made a huge impact. He played 51% of the snaps right away in that slugfest, and I don't mean that in a good way, against the Jaguars. Only played 30 snaps the next week, but no one had to play against that Bears team, and they would have won. He dominated right off the rip last season, so I'm not worried about it. Just make sure he's healthy for week 1.
The good Chiefs injury news: Joe Thuney is off the PUP list and back at practice. Well, back is a relative term. He's going through some drills. They're not full go yet with Joe Thuney, but still back. I think I'm a little surprised that it was this fast. Those pectoral injuries can be pretty tough, and he suffered the injury in the playoffs last year, so in January, but looks like he's going to be full go by the time the games start and by the time week 1 rolls around. That's another guy you put on the list of, as long as he's ready to go week 1, that's all that matters.
Yeah. So depending on the severity of the tear, it can take anywhere from a matter of weeks to a matter of months. I don't know exactly what grade it was for Joe Thuney. I mean, bad enough that he missed the Super Bowl. Although he tried. Let's not forget, he wanted to go and play in the Super Bowl. He just physically wasn't able to do so. So, great. I don't need him to practice either. Joe Thuney is at a point in his career where as long as he's healthy, he's going to do what he can do. I'm not fretting that at all.
Some other notes from camp. It appears that the Justin Reid kickoff specialist era has already come to an end.
Boo!
Dave Tobe spoke to the media on Saturday and made very clear Harrison Butker's going to do kickoffs. And I think that we have talked about the Chiefs thinking outside the box, or trying to think outside the box, trying to be innovative, trying to be on the cutting edge of new strategy and new edges that they can find to try and win football games. And one of the ones that they clearly landed on right away was, well, if there are going to be more kickoff returns, maybe we need 11 guys who can tackle on the field and not 10 guys who can tackle and a kicker we're trying to make sure doesn't break in half. It makes sense. Like the thought process behind it was sound. And we know that Justin Reed can kick in an NFL game. We have seen him score points with his foot in an NFL game. Like it didn't come from absolutely nowhere. But the more that I have read about the new kickoff rule and how teams are approaching it, Justin Reed can kick the ball high and far, and that's nice. But it seems as though what's going to be more valuable on these kickoffs, and being our spring football insider, Brendan, you can maybe speak to the caliber or the quality of the XFL/UFL kickoffs and returns more than I can. But it sounds like it might be more beneficial, instead of just pounding it down the center or angling the kick, to try and kick the worst kicks possible, to try and just sort of bang it down the field, kind of wobbly, almost squibby, and have time for your team to attack while the returner might be having trouble picking the ball up.
There's something to that for sure. I mean, it's kind of funny. You develop a brand new strategy by the rules now taking the strategy out of unique kicks. Like, yeah, the touchback is more punitive than it's ever been before. They're going to put it at the 30-yard line. Well, that makes things harder on the kicking team. There's no use in popping the ball up anymore, because some teams have tried over the last few years, since they moved the kickoff up and also moved up the touchback line. They would just try to pop it up in the air as high as they could, try to pin it inside the 5 to the 0 to the goal line and try to force a return that way. There's no benefit in doing that now. There's no use for that at all. So, yeah, there is something to just get it down there quickly. But again, by the same token, I'd rather have a guy out there who can tackle if that's the case. Because, as I've told you before, the one thing that I think we're going to get more of this season with this new kickoff rule is touchdowns. Because once you get past that last the only line of defense, there's nobody back there. And if you are the Chiefs, what would you rather have? Justin Reed in the open field trying to get the angle one-on-one on, I don't know who Baltimore is going to have returning kicks this year, on Tylan Wallace, or Harrison Butker doing it. Well, one is going to be an automatic touchdown. The other one, you have at least a chance of making a stop between the 40s.
No, I totally get what you're saying. And I think that this pivot from Dave Toub shows that in theory, in practice, that makes a lot of sense what you're saying. In theory, rather, it makes sense what you're saying. But in practice, it's more valuable the shape of your kick and the difficulty of fielding the kick than it is to just have a strong, maybe a line drive kick, but then have one extra guy who can maybe make a tackle if they break contain. Because, look, breaking contain is going to be a big play, one way or another. Yes. And even if you have a good player back deep, they get the angle wrong, 6. See ya.
Yep.
Katie bar the door. So I think that the Chiefs have decided that it might be of greater value to them to have a kicker who can kick something wobbly, kick something funky, do something unique with the football off his foot, and make it hard to return the ball as soon as it touches down, rather than making it a little harder to break the big return. And I do. I think that makes a certain amount of sense. And like, this is such a fluid situation. It could go wrong in week 1 and they could change back. Like, they're going to, I think, appreciate having some options. But it's interesting to hear that particular dream died really hard. Dave Toub made it very clear on Saturday that Justin Reed will not be kicking off for the Chiefs.
If I may bring a conspiracy theory to the table, do we know how Justin Reed got hurt?
They say it's a non-football injury, and people love to say kickers aren't really football players.
Well, true, but
which is mean and not true, but it's for the joke. Bear with me.
So I do think it is important to note, with that in mind, if you're put on the NFI, that could be a true non-football injury. You might be Joel Zamaya getting, injured playing Guitar Hero. I know that was baseball and also fake, but bear with me. That also, though, means you got hurt doing something football related away from the team facility. So if you're working out on your own and get hurt, that can land you on the NFI list.
Interesting.
Was Justin Reed trying to kick when he got hurt?
Interesting.
I have no proof. I don't even have an inkling that something in that regard may have happened, but I wonder if there was something that happened that made the Chiefs say, all right, no. Wait, not worth it. Or maybe alternately, and I'm just coming up with theories here. Maybe another one is if we're going to use Justin Reed as part of our kickoff team, we need every single day of camp to get that installed. We need to do it every single day, make sure everyone's on the same page. And if he's going to miss 2-3 weeks of camp, we're not going to have time for it. And we just got to scrap it, which is also possible.
One more position of note that I want to get to here. I want to talk quickly about the running backs. Deneric Prince continues to get running back 2 snaps behind Isaiah Pacheco. And part of the reason for that is that Clyde Edwards-Helaire has been out of practice. And he tweeted earlier this morning, quote, "Living with PTSD is no small feat. It's hard and very overwhelming. Within the last month, I've had many flare-ups, and the amazing staff here at the Chiefs have been helping me get through some tough times. I'll be back rolling next practice. All love, Glydro." You never know what guys are going through. Yeah. And don't know, again, like the genesis for the things that Clyde appears to be dealing with, but good for the Chiefs and to give him the space, and good for Clyde to take it, because sometimes that's even harder than having the space to do it. It's just asking for the space, like, hey, my head's not right. I'm not going to be my best self. I need to get right. That's a hard thing to do, especially when your roster spot is not guaranteed. Yeah. That's a very difficult thing to do. So really salute Clyde Edwards-Helaire for that. In the meantime, that has given Deneric Prince more reps. Louis Rees-Zammit has gotten some reps as well. And I think there's a lot of video on him because he's a curiosity, right? Like I called him a couple of weeks ago the most interesting man in Chiefs camp, and I stand by that.
I think you're right about that.
There's a lot of curiosity about him, so there's a lot of desire for like video of him. A lot of people that are at the camp, a lot of TV, radio folks are taking video of Louis Rees-Zammit, and it's pretty much what you'd expect. The running part looks like he knows what he's doing. The physical part of a brand new sport, that is leaving quite a bit to be desired.
I don't have any doubts about Louis Rees-Zammit's desire to be a good football player, or like being able to understand the playbook or anything like that. But I did see some clips of him from camp yesterday, working on a few run plays, getting a couple one-on-one reps in pass pro. You know, I don't know if you know this. Blocking is illegal in rugby. That is not something you can do in rugby. And you can tell the first rep he had, this was against Curtis Jacobs, who practice squad, maybe?
That's not a name we've brought up.
No. He was matched up on Rees-Zammit, and I've got the clip in front of me right now. He's coming from the left, coming from wide positioning. Rees-Zammit kind of stutter steps into position, braces, and is knocked off his bearing in about a half a second, and then has to hold on to his shoulder pads for dear life. That is going to get your quarterback killed, and that is going to get you a one-way ticket back to Swansea. Like that ain't gonna work for you in the NFL. So right now, honestly, knowing how far behind he is as a blocker makes me believe he is going to be special teams, jet sweeps, hold on to him for next year, see if we can develop that. Because like, maybe he can be a third down back. Nope. Don't do it.
Patrick Mahomes being protected by that is not something that I think the Chiefs want. And again, the evidence is on film.
And like, it's hard. It is hard to pass pro.
Yes,
but
that's why Jerick McKinnon was so valuable, because he could do it so well. It's not a skill set every running back has. It can be taught. I think Isaiah Pacheco's better than he was when he entered the league and improving.
Yeah,
like you can teach it, but it's a long way to go. Especially for a guy who has literally never played organized football.
And it's rarely a one-year process for guys who have done it their whole lives.
We're going to take our first break of this hour here on 580 Sports Talk. Still to come, Matt Verderame, our NFL insider, will join us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline. But first, a round of good, bad, and ugly from the weekend that was on 580 WIBW from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. get through a quick good, bad, ugly from the weekend that was. Brendan, what was your good?
All right, I've got two goods. No bad. Two goods, though.
Okay.
All right, so first good, I got to see the Cubs. I only get to see them usually like once a year these days, and they won. Sorry, Royals fans, but that was fun. I even got to see someone get traded mid-game.
Yeah.
That was wild.
You got Hug Watch with Christopher Morel.
Yeah. Michael Bush showed up, and then was good. That was nice. Also, I don't know if you saw this video, but apparently Cooper Beebe, formerly of K-State, now maybe is going to start at center, which he's never played before for the Cowboys this year. Awesome for him. You know who his training partner was this summer at home in KCK?
His mom.
His mom! Mrs. Beebe apparently would tell Cooper on her lunch break from work, we're doing snaps in the yard, let's go. And she would do Dak Prescott, here we go, and would do his cadence and work on snaps with Cooper. That is an awesome mom. Good for Mrs. Beebe.
Good for me was Salvy's home run on Friday night. That was a capital M moment for the capital C captain, and felt like it was going to lead to some really good things this weekend for the Royals. Just because it didn't doesn't mean that won't be something that lives long in the memory of the 36,000 plus who were there that night. If you wanted a Mahomes bobblehead, hope you got there real early. They were out like an hour before first pitch, and 36,000, their second highest crowd of the season. So cool moment, great crowd reaction, and that was a fun one. My bad is that I am not currently feeling well, and I might have to stay away from my kiddo for a little bit, which would be a huge bummer. Like, I would feel so bad if this isn't a 24-hour deal and I can't just punt it aside and be fine tomorrow, and I got to be out of commission for my poor wife doing kid stuff one-on-one. That's tough. What's your ugly?
All right, good segue into my ugly. Right before he left for vacation the other day on Tuesday, Spencer said, dang, I don't feel very well. That sucks right before vacation. If you watch on YouTube, you know Spencer sits about 2.5 feet from me. Guess who's been sick ever since? Me.
Huh, weird. Maybe we're just passing it around the studio. Maybe that's what's happening.
Don't come into this studio, anyone else.
Yeah, no kidding. My ugly
quarantine zone.
My ugly is that Google commercial where the dad is saying, I want my daughter to write a letter to her hero, Sydney McLaughlin. Can you help me, AI? You can't write a letter for your kid?
I just spent 8 hours talking about this.
It's not even good AI. Google's AI is completely broken.
Dude, this is evil.
Yes.
This is genuinely like anti-human evil.
Hey, AI, help me write a letter. Something I learned how to do in 3rd grade. What?
Disgusting.
It
it's
sucks.
Awful. I genuinely am disgusted by it.
Absolutely garbage commercial. And we're going to see it like 100 more times during the Olympics.
At least.
Matt Verderame joins us next here on 580 Sports Talk. Joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline is our NFL insider, Matt Verderame from Sports Illustrated, SI.com. Also, That Football Show on the KC Sports Network and the Matt Verderame Show, available via his Patreon. Find him on Twitter, too, at Matt Verderame, and hear him every Monday at this time on 580 Sports Talk. Matt, training camp in full swing all across the league. What is, to you, the most interesting development from Chiefs camp thus far?
There's a few. Hopefully you guys can hear me because I am in the middle of rural Wisconsin, actually driving to Packers camp for tomorrow.
Hey, now. Yeah, we got you.
But that's good. Good. All right. That's good news. All right. For the Chiefs, look, I think it's just the explosiveness of the offense. I mean, I know in some ways you look at that and go, well, how could that be the biggest takeaway? Like they are a team with Patrick Mahomes, but if you watched them a year ago, they could not get explosive plays. They could not threaten. Teams were putting a safety down in the box. Worthy has been as advertised. Rice looks good. Brown has looked really good. I think, that's going to open up so much else on the offense. Not just, hey, we're going to get a 50-yarder here and there, but also, like, we're going to get a lot of free yards underneath. I think that just the mentality that they're clearly trying to get the ball deep down the field, I think that's really going to change a lot of things to the offense, kind of harken it back to what it was a few years ago.
Any concern yet about the performance of the left tackles, or is it early enough in camp that you feel like Kingsley Suamataia and Wanye Morris have a little bit more grace period until the games start being played in the preseason?
I got to be honest with you. I don't have any concern from the standpoint that it is just so hard to judge an offensive or a defensive lineman when pads aren't on. Pads only came on a few days ago. It's been a lot of these one-on-one O-line, D-line reps. Anybody in the league will tell you, and I've asked many offensive and defensive linemen about this, you better win those reps if you're a defensive lineman. You're one-on-one, and you've got an open two-way go on the guy. Like, there's no scheming involved. There's no chip. There's no slide. I really am not going to have any concern until I see what they look like against Jacksonville in the preseason opener. If they're getting torched in that game, it's a totally different conversation. That's a good defensive line in Jacksonville. It's a good test. But I think the ultimate kind of barometer of all this is you haven't seen the Chiefs go out and sign Donovan Smith. He's still out there. That is their break glass in case of emergency situation. They haven't done it. So to me, that tells me that they're not overly concerned yet either.
We heard from Steve Spagnuolo, the defensive coordinator, earlier today in St. Joe and here on 580 Sports Talk. And he was talking about the linebacker group and the way it's going to shake out this year. Drew Tranquil's in that Will role, that Willie Gay role from last year, playing alongside Nick Bolton. Leo Chanel should have an expanded role this year, too, with the departure of Gay in free agency. What do you make of this linebacker group? Do you think this is one of the better groups in the league? And how do you think that those three will be able to complement each other throughout this season?
So I think that it's one of the better starting trios in the NFL because Bolton, I know he has a wide range of opinions on him, but he's a good player. At times, a very good player. Tranquil is an excellent player. And Chanel is very good at what he does. Like he's not going to be the guy who's just constantly in there, run fitting. Yeah, he's got a lot of athleticism to him. But he can cover. He can do some different things. He's a good blitzer. So I think it's very good in the top three. My biggest concern with the Chiefs across the entire team might be the depth of the linebackers. Because if anybody gets hurt, if anybody's out for a significant amount of time, you don't have Chanel coming off the bench this year. You have Jack Cochran coming off the bench. Nothing against Jack Cochran, but he's a massive unknown. So I think the starting three are excellent, but I think the depth is a concern.
We're chatting with Matt Verderame, as we do every Monday at this time here on 580 Sports Talk, talking all things NFL. You can find Matt's work all over the place at SI.com and in Sports Illustrated, as well as on Patreon with the Matt Verderame Show and at the KC Sports Network with That Football Show. Matt, since you are on the way to Green Bay for Packers camp, what a perfect transition into quarterback talk and some big contracts. Let's start with Tua. We'll do him before Jordan Love. They signed, or at least they were announced that they were signed on the same day last week. What do you make of that Tua deal, the structure of it, and what that means for the near-term future in Miami?
I think it means that Miami is going to have to get really, really fortunate to win the Super Bowl. And I don't mean that to sound like a glib slam of Tua, but it's just the truth. Like, I don't know how you could watch him to this point in his career and think that you're going to a Super Bowl, that you're winning a Super Bowl with him at quarterback. They have had unbelievable playmakers around him, right? I mean, I don't think anybody would argue that. They have had elite receiver play. They've had excellent rushing attacks. They've had McDaniel, who's a great coach, especially on the offensive side of the ball, and yet they really don't threaten anybody who's good. I understand why they paid him. You're hoping he gets better. You're hoping he continues to improve. But if I were Miami, I would have played this year out. I would have tagged him. And then at the end of that, if he's not much better, I would have just traded him away or let him walk, whatever you got to do. I talked to a couple of coordinators about a month and a half ago for a story I did on tour at SI. And both coordinators, without being led, did the same thing. Yeah, you want to make Tua beat you. He's not going to really read through the progressions. You can get to him. That's a lot of money to give to a guy who I think really kind of puts a cap on who you can be.
Tua had some comments, I think it must have been yesterday or whenever he spoke most recently after he got the new contract, where he said, Mike McDaniel went to bat for me. And I'm not going to say exactly what he said, but from what I've been told, he really went to bat for me, and I greatly appreciate that. Do you think that's Mike McDaniel legitimately throwing his weight behind wanting Tua as his QB, or do you think that's just a good guy doing a good guy thing?
I got to think it's the latter. Like, I feel like, so McDaniel comes from San Francisco. San Francisco went through this for years with Garoppolo. They won games. They at times were really good, just like Miami was at times last year. But you always kind of looked at the Niners and said, you know what? They're good. They're even really good occasionally. But that quarterback, at some point, that's going to be a problem. And Shanahan knew it. And that's why after they lost the Super Bowl, they were up 10 points with 6 minutes going Super Bowl. They traded 3 first-round picks for Trey Lance. Now, obviously, that was a disaster, and they got incredibly lucky. They took Purdy as Mr. Irrelevant. But they knew it. Like, deep down, they knew. They knew the truth. And I think with Miami, look, McDaniel, what else is he going to do? I mean, it really comes down to, do you have a better option? Most people think next quarterback class, the next one in 2025 is not good. So you're basically sitting there going, all right, well, would we try to make a crazy swap and let Tua go and get Dak or something? Like, is Dak that much better that it's worth that risk? No, he's not. So I think it's one of those things where you're McDaniel, you're going, hey, look, he's job certain, right? Like, he's good enough. I can get to the playoffs. I can keep my job. And in the meantime, we can go look for other answers. And I think that's eventually what it's going to become.
As for Jordan Love getting the, for the time being, biggest contract for a quarterback, whenever Dak Prescott eventually gets paid this year or next, I'm sure it will be even bigger than that. But Jordan Love gets paid. He's locked in Green Bay for the next several years. All good news there for the Packers. I think personally, Matt, too many people get caught up on the number and, oh my God, 55 a year, that's insane. To me, it's more about the structure and about the percentage of the cap and things like that. So to me, when I see that he's going to make, $75 million this year, but 8 different pass catchers are going to make a grand total of about $15 million, to me, that still sounds like a pretty dang good move for Green Bay.
Yes, I feel a lot differently about Tua than I do about Jordan Love. Like, if I were the Packers, I would give him the money. I watched Jordan Love last year play elite football down the stretch. Like, he wasn't good. He was excellent. That kid, I saw him in OTAs last year, and he stunk. And I saw him at training camp, and he was good. And I saw him early in the season against the Lions on a Thursday night where the Lions ran for about 900 yards. And he was so-so that night. And then saw him against Kansas City, and I thought he played spectacular football. He got better and better and better as the year went on. You've invested years in him. I know obviously he didn't start a lot of those years, only 1 year as starter, but you clearly invested in him as good Packers. You're good at Guns. I don't have any question really that he can be really, really good and lead a team. I don't have that question. And so if I'm the Packers, A, I'm paying him, and B, to your point, yeah, you've got so many other guys who are so cheap right now that who cares? By the time Love has to get paid again, that's about when all these other guys are going to start seeing big money if they pan out. So, yeah, if I'm the Packers, that was not a hard deal for me to do. Maybe you wanted it to be around 52 or something like that. But in the end, you're not going to quibble. You're not going to quibble with the franchise quarterback over a couple $1 million a year when you can find it in other places.
We're joined by Matt Verderame of Sports Illustrated. And Matt, we're a couple days away from the first preseason game of the year, the first NFL game that we're getting since the Super Bowl. It's between the Bears and now I'm forgetting who it's between. Who's the other team?
Jacksonville.
No, the Texans. Bears
I'm
and
wrong?
Texans.
Okay.
What are you wanting to see from both those teams when they first put their, however long they put their starters out there for?
Well, just by the fact that I didn't even know who the Bears were playing tells you how excited I am about that game. That game's terrible. That game's terrible every year.
We may have lost Matt Verderame. Matt, are you there?
I think we might have lost Matt in the wilderness.
I think we did too.
We got him a good amount of time though.
Matt, do you hear us?
I'm here.
All right. Great. Okay. Yes.
Hey.
Yes.
Wisconsin. Who knew?
I guess it was because how bad that game was. It didn't want it,
Yeah,
nobody wanted to hear the take.
God was enough out of you, please. But honestly, no. I think if you're the Bears with Caleb Williams, whether it's the Hall of Fame game or not, I think all you want to see is him just doing the basic stuff, right? Like make the right read, be accurate. You know he's got a huge arm. You know that he can make all the. Like you want to see the mental stuff. You want if they show blitz, maybe ID it, you check something. Like it's that stuff because that's the stuff that this year is going to really make the difference for the Bears. I know Williams can throw the ball, through a car wash and not get it wet. I know that. I want to see him make the 3rd and 7, and I know where my hot is. Here comes the blitz, and I'm going to hit a little curl route behind it for 9 yards and first down. That's the stuff that I want to see more than the highlight reel stuff.
Does Caleb Williams need to be essentially what C.J. Stroud was last year for Houston for Chicago to have a real playoff chance? Or is something less than that? Is just adequate quarterback play in year one from Caleb going to be enough? Because I'm kind of intrigued by this roster, maybe in spite of myself a little bit, but I'm starting to talk myself into the Bears a little bit if Caleb's good right off the rip.
I think the biggest thing with the Bears is how good is the defense? Like, is the defense decent? Is it not good at all? Like, I know they have Sweat, who's excellent. Do they have any other pass rush? Do they have anybody else? And if they do, then I think Williams just has to be solid, like middle of the road in terms of, if you rank the quarterback. If the defense isn't good, that's when you're probably looking at, okay, he's got to play top 10 or better. I have them as a playoff. I think 3 teams are coming out of the North in the NFC. I really do. I think it's the best division of football. I think the Bears are going to be a 9-10 win team. I think Williams is going to be good. And I think he's got the pass catch to make his life a hell of a lot easier.
Both of the quarterback battles in the AFC West are extremely depressing. The Raiders and the Broncos have some very poor options to go with week one. Who do you think wins those quarterback battles?
I think Minshew is going to win it in Vegas. Everything I've heard has been that they are all about him for this year at least. So I think he's going to take the job here.
I think we may have lost Matt Verderame again, and it may be for good this time. Matt, we're up against a break, so if you can hear us, we appreciate you taking the time, driving through rural Wisconsin. Enjoy Packers camp, and we will catch up with you next week. That is Matt Verderame of Sports Illustrated, SI.com, that football show on KC Sports Network, and the Matt Verderame show on Patreon. I'm a little disappointed that answer got cut off. I'm going to ask it again next week. I want to hear him talk about the Broncos quarterbacks.
That's a very sick thing for you to say.
Yeah.
You're a very sick man.
I like hearing Matt talk about good football. There's a lot of it. I really like hearing Matt talk about bad football. That really makes my heart sing.
I set Matt up there because he always talks about not liking the preseason. He said on the show.
Hey, he followed through.
And he said on the show before can we just move it to the beginning of the season? So
that's
I
that.
set him up.
That's that with Matt. We appreciate the time of the Flame Place Wine Spirits hotline. Coming up the next hour, we'll hear from Creed Humphrey, Trent McDuffie, doing an Olympic roundup, and have What Is Wrong With You coming up as well. From the Kansas Drive to Zero studios, we're halfway home, and everybody's here on 580 Sports Talk. Let's get it. Hour number 3 of this Monday edition of 580 Sports Talk. And the gang's all here. Dan Lucero, Brendan Brzezinski, and fresh off his vacation/concert experience, Spencer Dupuis immediately to my left. Trent Craxner across the glass, our producer engineer. We're glad you're with us on 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com. Or if you're watching the YouTube or video stream, we appreciate you doing that. Facebook, WIBW News is the Facebook page. And on YouTube, you can watch us. The channel is called 580 Sports Talk. Jump on into the live chat, interact with other listeners, and interact with your hosts.
You know, if you haven't subscribed yet, today feels like a great day to do so, to go subscribe to our YouTube channel. Like right now, you should go do that. 580 Sports Talk on YouTube.
Deadline spur action. We got the baseball trading deadline coming up. And now
tomorrow.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, 6 p.m., right?
5 o'clock.
5
Time
o'clock here.
Yeah. 5 o'clock here. So we'll
still got to get used to the good time zone, Central Time.
We will theoretically know if the Royals have done anything. Although the last couple of years, they've had some late breaking trades. I think the Jorge Soler trade broke like 20 minutes late.
Yeah.
Whit Merrifield to Toronto, which, given like everything, was one of the funniest trades that has ever been made. That broke late as well. So
the Jorge Soler trade notification broke my heart at the time because I was the biggest Jorge Soler defender.
Well, defender and Jorge Soler not typically in the same sentence.
I don't even remember who the Royals got back in return for him. I'm not even gonna lie, not off the top of my head.
I don't either, man. We're
gonna find out, and I bet it's gonna be really funny. Hold on momentarily. The Royals got back. Let's see here. Kansas City Royals executed a trade deadline deal. Right-handed pitcher Casey Kalich.
Who?
Right-hand pitcher Casey Kalich.
So Casey Kalich these days.
He got last thing I see, he got released last March of 2023 by the Northwest Arkansas.
He is carrying a 1-3 record and an 8.67 ERA for the Cleburne Railroaders of the American Association.
Wow.
He was actually pretty decent for them last year. This is his second year as a Railroader.
He's 26.
Getting railroaded. Yeah. 26 years old. And I can attest to somebody who had a brother play in the American Association.
Still might be better than Chris Stratton.
Like if you were a prospect of any renown, or if you were a high draft pick, the American Association feels like hell.
I will tell you this. Do you know the guy who got called up to fill Jorge Soler's roster spot that year?
Was it
Ryan O'Hearn?
No. That's slugger extraordinaire Ryan O'Hearn. And no. He was already on the club, I believe, at that point. Lucius Fox.
Oh, Tampa Bay's Ray legend.
Fox, Nationals legend Lucius Fox.
Yes, Spencer, you are correct. He was called up to fill the spot Jorge Soler left on the Royals roster.
The Royals traded him to the Rays, I think.
Yes, he never played a game for the Royals. He never actually got in a game. He ended up in 2022 playing 10 games for the Nationals. Has not made it back to the majors since.
Was released.
I believe he's a free agent.
Yes, released by the White Sox earlier this year, which that is a level of that is it's Jover, buddy. If the White Sox can't find room for you,
you know who the Royals traded to get Lucius Fox from the Rays?
I do, but I'm looking at
Phillips.
Yeah, Brett Phillips.
World Series almost hero.
One of the greatest moments in World Series history because I was also a big Brett Phillips fan, so that was good for the brand.
In 10 games with the Nats, he was 2 for 25.
Better than I could do.
080.
That's like Nate Eaton 2023 numbers right there.
He's so bad that in March he got released from the White Sox organization. You know you're not good at the sport when the White Sox are releasing you.
Probably time to go home and be a family man at that point.
Casey Kalich was a draft pick in 2019.
4th round pick from Texas A&M.
Yes. Speaking of Texas A&M pitchers drafted in that era, what do you think Asa Lacy's up to?
Oh, no. Man,
isn't he hurt?
Man, this has been a fun year for the Royals. We don't have to do the Asa Lacy thing right now. I do think he had like some significant surgery.
He's hurt, probably, isn't he?
He has not pitched anywhere since 2022.
Yeah, I think he had arm or elbow surgery this year. You know, he went to the same high school as Johnny Manziel, Tybee High, Kerrville, Texas.
Something in the water, man.
Yeah. Folks, This has been fun Asa Lacy facts on 580
I feel
Sports
bad
Talk.
for Asa Lacy.
This has been remember that guy.
Yeah.
Remember some guys you'd rather not remember.
Yeah, no
Remember
kidding.
that legend. Oh, wait, not really.
Legend at the bank. Asa Lacy was a first-round pick. He's a legend at the bank. Let me tell you what. Legend at the bank.
Do they have career earnings on Baseball Reference?
You want to talk about legendary guy at the bank? Look at Jordan Lyles' career WAR numbers and how much money he's made in his career.
Lacy got a $6.667 million signing bonus. So, yeah, legend at the bank.
Asa, break me off some of that. I still believe.
Hey, it ain't over till it's over. Mark Appel made the bigs. Riley Pint made the bigs. Anything can happen.
Riley Pint made the bigs a couple of times.
Yes, he's been called up twice. It's never gone well, but he's been called up twice. 2-time Major League pitcher, Riley Pint.
Hey, you take that. Kansas kid.
Rocky great.
We've got the Olympic update coming up a little bit later on this hour. We'll get to this game in particular. Team USA women's basketball, little trouble with Japan today. 102-76. It's hard to score 100 in a FIBA game.
Yeah, 140 minutes is a lot of points.
Yeah, that's a lot. Asia Wilson, the greatest player in the world, unsurprisingly, was insane. 24 points, 13 rebounds, 4 blocks, 4 assists.
Apparently there was a fan of Team Japan in the crowd that had a sign that said, "You need Caitlin Clark to beat us." And the players all saw it and said,
you want to talk about the biggest snub on the national team? It's definitely Tiana Jackson. Push the KU propaganda.
All right, let's all calm down. Coming up later this hour, we do have an Olympic roundup coming for you, including a new theme song. I'm just gonna tease it.
I'm very excited.
We got
it.
We got a new theme song.
Oh yeah, you wouldn't have been here when this. Is it what we talked about last week?
Better.
Whoa!
It's better. It's better.
All right.
We've got the Olympic roundup coming up later this hour. Still to come on the show, Mitch Holthus will join us at 5:25 for our first training camp report of the new season. Mitch's training camp reports brought to you by Hy-Vee and by Azure Credit Union. We are excited to speak with the voice of the Chiefs, the icon himself, Mitch Holthus, at 5:25 this afternoon. First, we're going to hear from some members of the Kansas City Chiefs who spoke to the media earlier today after the 10-10-10 practice that was held on a muggy day in St. Joseph, Missouri. First, we'll hear from Trent McDuffie. I was saying earlier, I love listening to Trent McDuffie talk. I think he's smart. I think I learned something when he talks because I think he's really incisive about the game and the way he plays and the scheme and all of that. Trent McDuffie is a good talker as that goes. And it is no surprise he has quickly picked up the Steve Spagnuolo scheme and become one of the best defensive backs in football. In fact, Steve Spagnuolo, in his remarks, said that the highest compliment you can give a guy is making him an all-pro in a year where he didn't intercept a pass. And that was Trent McDuffie last year. So here's Trent speaking to the media after practice today out in St. Joe.
What do you feel like is the kind of edge and mentality of this team that tells you you're not going to have that letdown?
Yeah. Honestly, I think it just goes back to the foundation that we built. You know what I mean? I mean, for me personally, being here the past 2 years, this defense has just consistently gotten better and better. And I think we're a group of guys that every day we come out to practice, every day we go into the meeting rooms, we have a purpose. And we're out there to prove that last year wasn't a fluke. You know what I mean? So I feel like the standard has been set. And I think having somebody like Coach Spags to really just lay the foundation from day one and say, this is what we're shooting for, this is what we're doing, I feel like everybody's bought in. And I think that's been the best part about being out here so far.
Was there a point last year where you knew how good you were going to be defensively, where you saw things coming together and said, okay, we're going to be the number 2 defense or whatever you guys have out there?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you guys remember last year me talking, but last year OTAs, I mean, that was when I first was like, whoa. I mean, coming from rookie year and then going to that spring, I was like, okay, things have been like a little different, you know, like something about the defense was clicking on all cylinders. And I feel like from that OTAs to going into training camp to the first game, I mean, every single game I felt like the defense just got better and better and better. And each player's got more comfortable and confident. So I saw that from a very early on time period that we were going to be really good.
What are you seeing in that regard this year?
I think the confidence has just become even more. I think that's the biggest thing for this defense out here is just we've gone through all the bumps and bruises. You know what I mean? We've worked back last year, losing some games and having to fight through playoffs and go to away games and the adversity. So coming back, I think the big thing for us is just welcoming these new guys in, you know, showing them this is the standard. This is how we practice, this is how we do things. The rookies, I mean, even the new guys that we just brought in. But I feel like everybody's really just honed it in and took it on the chin and just rolled with the punches.
Coach Spagnuolo reminded us of your all-pro season. Just coming off something like that, what is your personal emphasis on how to get better and grow even from the top of the game?
Yeah, I mean, last year, all pro, but I feel like, I still was learning so much. Last year was really my first time at the nickel position. And then this year, LJ leaving, moving to the outside, it's a different ball game. You know what I mean? Inside, you got help here and there. You can do things a little differently. But on the outside, on the island, you got to be a technician. And coming into this camp, knowing that I might have to do some more of that, it's been each and every day just working little by little on technique, and just trying to perfect myself out there. So still growing, still learning, and I feel like that's one thing that wakes me up every day.
Darius shut down some of the better receivers in the game. How willing and how vocal have you been about maybe doing that this year if they called them out?
I told Spags, wherever he needs me, like I always said, that's where you can put me. Going against the best of the best, that's why we play this game, to go against the best of the best. So being able to compete no matter who it's against, I'm ready to do that.
You're that leadership, in that, eating room. How much are you embracing that leadership role?
Yeah. Man, I'm not somebody, who's going to be that rah-rah, leader, jump in front, yelling at everybody. But definitely just spending a little more time outside of meetings, outside of being on the field to get to know the guys, to let them know about the little knickknacks that Coach Spags' playbook can have, that I came in as a rookie and being like, yo, slow it down. You know what I mean? It's a big jump come from college to learn this playbook to coming out here, Coach Reed's training camps, the LDDs, that you're going to be tired, you have your bumps and bruises. So just settle in, like we're going to bring you up to speed. So just rely on us, and that's something that I've really been just trying to make myself do each and every day, is just making sure I tell the guys, like, it's going to be all right.
Guys don't talk about it. Guys don't talk about it a lot. But Chris and Nick both talk about how they work on their mental, in the offseason. How much have you done with that?
Man, that's huge. I'm someone who's big on just the mental side of everything. You know what I mean? Not just football, but just in life in general, because you never know how somebody's feeling at the end of the day. So going back to California, seeing my family, seeing my little niece and nephew, and just being able to take that time to myself to just understand who I am again and just understand what I want for the rest of this year was huge for me.
You talk about Xavier Worthy and just the trouble he's going to give defenses.
Yeah, bright kid, you know what I mean? Coming in, humble, fast as hell, as everybody knows, you know what I mean? Can stretch that field definitely, but going against him, he's one of those dudes that you can just tell is just constantly learning. You know what I mean? You constantly see him talking to the coaches, talking to Pat, where he wants some ball, this and that. And the biggest thing for me is he's been catching the ball. You know what I mean? You love to see it. Guys come in here and want to run fast, want to run hard, but at the end of the day, it's catching the ball. And he's been one of those guys that's been consistent with that.
Okay, last year, Sam McKenzie now. I want to ask you about a couple of safeties. First of all, what are you seeing from Jaden in his first training camp, and then also just getting Brian back? What's happening?
Yeah, Jaden's doing great. You know what I mean? They got him playing a few different positions, which I know as a safety can be difficult learning this playbook, but he's asking all the right questions. You can tell each and every day he's coming in and taking notes and focusing in and trying to do everything the correct way, which you love to see on the back end, because doing what he's doing is pretty difficult. So just seeing his growth from spring to now has been huge. So I'm excited for him. And then, B. Cook, love the energy. You miss a guy like that out there that finishes every play. You know what I mean? You see him each and every play running down the field 80 yards to go tackle the ball carrier. One of those dudes that can go sideline to sideline. He's a vet. He came with me, one of my good friends. So I'm excited for him to have a full year healthy.
Trent, what does a corner need to have in order to thrive in this scheme?
It honestly comes back to knowing your responsibility on each and every play. Coach Spags has a lot of plays in, and we do a lot of different things. You can be a cover 3 corner, cover 2 corner, cover 4. We have all the coverages. So knowing where your leverage is and knowing where your help is. And at the end of the day, Coach Spags talks about it all the time. It's just disrupting the routes. You know what I mean? Getting your hands on the receivers and messing up that time is the best thing the corner can do in this defense.
You mentioned you're not the raw guy. Who right now is that guy, that vocal guy in the bathroom?
It's always been Jay Reed. You know what I mean?
And with him being out right now, who's kind of the guy that's on a day like this when it's 86 degrees out there?
It's funny. I don't know if Jay Reed's a rah-rah guy, but I don't know if there's anybody that's going out there screaming, yelling. I feel like our back end is everybody's kind of on a level playing field. You know what I mean? And everybody's able to be comfortable enough to speak up, to say, yo, a free agent can tell me, yo, man, you got to do this right. You got to do this right. And we all listen. So we're one of those guys that each and every day we're just helping each other. And, when things are messing up, I might speak up. B. Cook might speak up. I mean, each and every day, somebody is coming in here and making sure that the standard is set. And that's something that you love to see.
Trent McDuffie speaking earlier today at Chiefs training camp. Interesting thoughts there throughout, talking about when he knew last year they'd be really good and talking about moving around on defense. He's not shy about that prospect. He tells Steve Spagnuolo, put me wherever you need to put me. And he's eager. He's obviously capable. It's one of the best players on this defense. And I think that as this year goes on, if the Chiefs defense doesn't miss a beat without L'Jarius Sneed and continues to be a top 10 unit in the league, I think McDuffie's going to get even more league-wide recognition. And maybe that's a silly thing to say about a guy who's already been an all-pro in year 2, but I think he's going to be much more of a household name as far as star defensive backs in this league. I think he's got that kind of juice.
I think so too. I really think he's got that kind of ability. I mean, he's got this sort of potential that, like, you factor everything in, right? You factor in the fact that he's a hell of a player. He plays a fun style of football, save for the interceptions, but a guy who tackles, who's a willing, physical guy who can make plays on the ball, even if he doesn't pick the ball off. He's a really good talker. He's engaging. He's a smart dude. I mean, he's got everything you want. So in terms of the actual football star stuff and the star power off the field stuff, I mean, he's the total package.
Can I say underrated?
I'm actually willing to listen to that.
Yeah.
I really am. I think he is an underrated player, even though he was an all-pro.
Yeah, most all-pros don't fit that bill, but I do. I think that his league-wide, Q rating is probably lower than most of the other all-pro candidate defensive backs. He was an
all-pro, but he's not getting ranked up there with the top corners.
He should.
He should, but he's not.
Agreed.
Yeah,
totally agreed.
And I think some of that was the feeling that Sneed cast such a big shadow last year with his performance. I think it kind of surprised us last year when the all-pro teams came out and Sneed didn't even make second team and there was McDuffie on first team. That threw me for a loop. I know that. Yeah. But no, the more you looked at it, the more you see, okay, 5 forced fumbles, a terror as the blitzer, made the biggest defensive play of the game late in regulation of the Super Bowl, timing his blitz perfectly to force the field goal attempt instead of giving the Niners an opportunity to go bleed down the clock and win the game that way. So Trent's special in every way. He's a special player. Creed Humphrey. One thing Trent McDuffie hasn't done is appear on Saturday Night Live, even in a deleted scene. But Creed Humphrey has. And Creed spoke to the media earlier today. If you're an Office fan, you'll appreciate this. Here are some Creed thoughts.
It's great, getting to have him back, doing some group install stuff, some indie stuff. It's been good. And obviously he's a big time leader for us. He has a ton of experience and he's a heck of a player. So whenever you get a guy like that back, it's great.
Nothing against the guys who've been replacing him up here, but what do you miss when you don't have a guy like that with his ability to experience in the play?
Yeah, well, I mean, he's done it all in the league. He's played in all the big games and everything, and he sees everything so well, and that's what makes him one of, if not the best guard in the league. So being able to have him back, it's going to be huge.
What do you do? I know there was some snap issues last week. What do you do in the offseason to try to correct that?
Yeah, just focus on technique and just getting the reps in, doing it after a workout when you're tired, things like that, so you can stay focused on the technique while you're doing it.
Steve Spagnuolo, talk about playing in this training camp heat and what you guys are doing to keep yourself healthy and prevent injuries.
Yeah, it's a lot of recovery after practice, a lot of rehydration, things like that. So the training staff does a great job. Strength staff does a great job. Nutrition staff, everybody does a great job with us and, getting us back to where we need to be for practice the next day.
What have you learned about this offensive line the last couple of days in pads? I know it's not a game, but what have you learned about this unit?
Yeah, we're still growing as one unit right now. We've added new pieces, and we're getting closer each day. So, as long as the guys continue to keep competing, battling, we're going to like the results for this year. So, for us right now, it's just taking it day by day and getting better every day.
With Kingsley and the rookie, obviously you came in and started right away. So can you give us the difficulty of the lingo aspect of it, getting up to speed?
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff thrown at you during training camp, especially as a rookie. And he's done a good job being able to process stuff, study on his own at night, things like that. He's done a good job and he's picking up on stuff well. So for him, it's just continuing to get these reps, going against really good defensive ends right now. It's going to be really helpful for him. So it's been good. And, he's getting better every day. And you can tell he's bought in and working hard to get better every day too.
I suppose some of that applies to the other two offensive linemen, Norzad and Hansen. What are your impressions of them so far?
They've done great. They're awesome to be around. Same way with them. They're buying in how we need them to, and they've improved every day. And they show some great stuff, and it's been awesome to see so far.
Only been a few months with Kingsley. Just what are some of the things behind the scenes that you might see him doing to make sure he has the best chance as possible?
Yeah, asking questions in meetings, staying sharp, staying locked in on meetings, things like that. And you can tell he has a instinct for the game, how he needs to play and how he needs to block, things like that. So as long as he keeps continuing to refine his techniques and stuff like he has been, it's going to be really good for him. He's a great athlete. He has the right mindset to be great, so it's going to be good to see.
I know last year you and Trent both said your motto is set the tone. How often are you preaching that to those young guys?
Every day. Before practice every day, we have to let them know. So that's something that we focus on, coming out here every day, setting the tone, making sure our guys are right, making sure we're ready to compete for the day. And so we preach that on them every day.
More business side of the game. You're coming up on that last year. Get involved in negotiations. Do you ask for an extension? Does the team reach out to you about anything like that?
Yeah, right now for me, I'm focused on training camp. I'm focused on football right now. Focused on getting this team to where it needs to be, and focused on getting the line where it needs to be, and getting myself to where I need to be. So that's my focus right now.
What was just the enjoyment or experience about playing hard last week of the games? Is that something that you wanted to do, maybe?
Yeah, when they originally asked me to do it, it was fun. I had a fun week, so it was a good time. Obviously, I'm more natural at center. Just because I've a ton more reps at center, but it's fun, and being able to have the ability to play wherever you need to, it's good. So I had fun with it, and I'll if they ask me to do it again, I'd do it again. But yeah, it was fun. But I like center.
Guys, a couple more here. Creed, how are they feeding you guys at camp? I saw Rashid's Instagram the other day with you and Trey with the giant steak bones. How are they feeding the big boys here?
Good. They're doing it right. So. But yeah, the food's been great. They have a great option every night, so it's been easy to eat. And there's times also we'll sneak away and go get a burger or something. But it's been good though. The food's been great. Nutrition staff has done a great job.
Do you have any reaction to the little Raiders?
No. I'm focused on us right now. I'm focused on this team getting better.
Creed Humphrey, very dismissive of that silliness that went on at Raiders camp last weekend. If the goal was to get under the Chiefs' skin, mission not accomplished. Mission emphatically not accomplished.
Yeah.
Embarrassing.
But if the goal is to get your brains beat in twice this regular season, you're right on schedule, Raiders. Commitment to excellence and all that good stuff. That was Creed Humphrey, again, speaking to the media a little bit earlier today out in St. Joe. I wonder where they sneak off to get burgers from. There's a good Wendy's there, not far from the campus. Jake LeBon and I went there a couple times.
I have a great story about Chiefs players going into a fast food restaurant that involves my dad when he was a kid. He was working at a Burger King. He was working back at it as like a cook or whatever during the daytime, and like 5 Chiefs players came in. They're like, "All right, we got to order got to cook up 30 burgers or whatever." My dad thought it was like a joke or whatever, and he peeked his hat and saw it was like all these Chiefs players, and I don't remember the names off the top of my head, but. Maybe they just go to like a Burger King like a normal person, or a McDonald's or something.
Hey, ain't nothing wrong with a Whopper or a Whopper Jr. It's son.
You know I ain't talking bad about the King of Burgers.
Go to McDonald's and order 20 double cheeseburgers.
I've never done that.
No, I'm saying they could.
They could. Creed Humphrey could put down that bag of burgers from Brahms that about ended my life on the way back from Emporia that one time. One of the biggest mistakes I've ever made. That's going to do it for this segment here on 580 Sports Talk. But phone line's open. I'm sitting next to a telephone, 785-272-9429. Who wants to go to the rodeo? I've got a family 4-pack to the big 94.5 Country Topeka PRCA Rodeo, August 23rd and 24th at the North Topeka Saddle Club. First caller who wants them gets them. 785-272-9429. Call in if you want the rodeo tickets. We'll hook you up, and we'll take a break, come back with What Is Wrong With You from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio on 580 Sports Talk. It's a new week and an extremely short week on What Is Wrong With You here on 580 Sports Talk from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. First, quick nod and congratulations to Bill, our winner of the first family 4-pack of rodeo tickets to
Bill.
Topeka PRCA Rodeo. We've got 3 more of those to give away, I believe, and we'll give them away this week. So be listening for your cue to call and your chance to win. 2 new stories today. We'll have a weekly winner because the next 2 days are going to be our semifinal and our final for what has been a whiz-bang of a What Is Wrong With You month here in July. And we got 2 good stories today that are going to be contenders. I'll go first. We're going out to my home state of Colorado, Summit County to be exact. Anybody know what's in Summit County?
Colorado Springs.
Not quite. Breckenridge and Frisco. These are mountain towns. And Colorado law enforcement officers had to settle a dispute last week between neighbors and a group of kids selling lemonade. Members of the Wilderness Homeowners Association, HOA for short, called the Summit County Sheriff's Office complaining about children running an illegal lemonade stand. Callers claimed the kids were blocking the road. Deputies arrived on scene, found that the children were not blocking the road, but did ask them to move back from the road a few feet for their safety. They did not find an issue with the location of the stand. The deputies began to move out, but the original reporting parties came out and began yelling at the kids, claiming they were on private property. Deputies came back and again found no issue with where the kids were selling their lemonade. They determined the property was shared HOA property, and because the children's parents are part of the HOA, they had a right to be there. The subdivision is located just south of a little town called Silverthorne that I've been to before and am not eager to go back to if that is how they treat their children in that town.
I'm going to be as honest as I can be here about these people. If I saw you in person, I'd beat your brains in with my fists.
All right.
Get over yourself, you ungodly losers. All-time losers. You're going to loser hell. Not even regular hell. Hell specifically for losers like you.
Think of the person you have to be to say the words out loud. These kids are running an illegal lemonade stand. They've got no right to be there. What, are they honing in on your turf? Or do you run the lemonade racket in Silverthorne? Is that what this is?
Awful.
The worst. Anyway, good story. Yours is up next, Brendan.
All right, my story is, it hurts me personally that you would take something so divine and so just beautiful in its existence and soil it and tarnish it like this. But a nurse aide in the state of Indiana responsible for distributing medicine to inmates at a prison has been charged with trying to smuggle cocaine and marijuana into the facility via a bowl of frozen lasagna.
Now, in this instance, Brendan, I agree with you. It is a real shame to ruin all that coke and weed in a bowl of nasty lasagna.
Unbelievable. You believe this? All right. As alleged in court documents, 46-year-old Regina Davis arrived for work earlier this month at the Indiana State Prison, where the property of employees, including their lunch and dinner, passes through an x-ray machine before they enter. The maximum security lockup houses more than 2,000 adult male prisoners and is located 45 miles east of Chicago. As Davis's lasagna moved through the x-ray machine, a guard thought the Italian delicacy, quote, looked odd. So he sought out the opinion of a colleague who concurred that something did not appear natural. When investigators subsequently dug through the lasagna, they found several packages wrapped in electrical tape that contained cocaine and pot, 3 and 1.7 ounces of the drugs, respectively. During questioning, Davis claimed she had been at a female friend's house the prior evening to, quote, get a tattoo when the woman gave her 2 containers of lasagna to eat. Davis claimed to not know it was stuffed with drugs. It is unclear if she also knew the lasagna had meatballs in it. After Davis reportedly agreed to allow her phone to be searched, investigators found photos of the wrapped drug packages taken a day earlier before they were put into the lasagna. That's when she changed her story and claimed she had been getting calls from unknown numbers from unknown individuals who threatened her safety and that of her brother, who she said had just been released from a prison work release program. Davis said she had been instructed to go with, quote, a black guy to pick up the drugs, some of which she did admit to wrapping herself. The narcotics would be picked up in the prison by an individual who stopped by the drug room where she works. The courier would say they were there to pick up some cream for their feet. Despite her compelling explanation, she was arrested on 2 felony narcotics trafficking accounts. She is free on bond, has pled not guilty, and will appear in court on Friday. She has been a licensed nurse aide for more than 20 years. She's also been certified as a qualified medication aide after completing additional training.
Man, like, I think there's at least a non-zero chance that the story she's telling has some basis in fact in it.
I believe the part that she wrapped the drugs herself. I don't really believe the rest of it.
Yeah, like, go with, quote, a black guy. Yeah, you're looking for a scapegoat at that point. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
That's like,
I'm out.
That's like old school racism right there.
Right.
Who did it? Someone who doesn't look like me.
Right.
Jeez.
Yeah, waste of perfectly good lasagna if you're into that kind of thing.
You know I am.
So who wins today, gentlemen?
No, I'm going. I think the lasagna story would win a lot of days. It ain't winning today. I want these people on site. I want names. I want addresses. I just want to talk.
Called the police on some kids selling lemonade.
Do you do that?
Losers.
What is wrong with your soul that you would do such a thing? Unless you're like,
Karen.
This HOA is only big enough for one lemonade stand, and like they got their own kids who run the lemonade stand, and these kids are honing in on their turf. Just lemonade turf wars in Colorado Mountain Town. It's fun to imagine. It is not fun to imagine what must be lurking deep in the depths of the hearts of the people who would call the police.
There was a poster of someone, I think they were on K-State Twitter a couple weeks ago, about like their kids had gone into their neighbor's yard and they had always been cool with it, but now the neighbor was getting all in their face and get your kids out of my yard. They can't walk in my yard. And all sorts of people were in the replies like, well, yeah, your kids are poorly behaved. This is a reflection of you and you shouldn't go in your neighbor's yard. I don't want to be neighbors with any of you people. Are you kidding? If you're living somewhere where you have yards and there are kids around, give me a break, man.
Jeffrey,
come on.
Jeffrey calls them the Rocky Mountain lowlifes. That's a good one, Jeffrey. We're going to go with that. We're
roll with that.
We're going to ride with the Rocky Mountain Lemonade lowlifes as our champion for today and a short week winner. You'll hear them again tomorrow, along with 4 other weekly champion stories as we begin the semifinals for the month of July on What Is Wrong With You. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, the Olympics are happening, and lots is happening at the Olympics, and we'll talk about it on a little thing we like to call the Olympic Roundup on 580 WIBW. 580 Sports Talk. Dan, Brendan, Spencer, Trent, we're still recovering. Right before we go to break, apparently today over at Taco Bell is the Baja-versary. I didn't know drinks had birthdays, but apparently Baja Blast does. And Spencer was looking up some interesting facts about the beverage, which he on occasion enjoys, and asked us if we knew that it was named after the Baja region of the state of California and Mexico. And yeah, we did know that.
I did not know that.
Don't feel bad, Spencer. I didn't know that either. Don't let them hate on you.
I don't know why.
I've never seen Brendan crack like that before, though. He died.
Oh man, I don't know why that was so funny, but I'm sorry. I'm glad you know. No insult from me to someone else who's learning something. I love the feeling of gaining new knowledge and learning a new fact.
We're passionate about learning here on 580 Sports.
For some reason, that was hysterical to me.
Yeah.
And I do not know why. Please do not take it personally.
We're going to hear more from Spencer regarding his little excursion to D.C. We got to find out how many people actually confused him for Luke Combs while he was out there at the Luke Combs concert. Also, he got upgraded. He got baller seats, so he's going to tell us that story too.
Yeah.
That's coming up at the 5 o'clock hour. Also coming up at the 5 o'clock hour, Mitch Holthus, the voice of the Chiefs, joining us for our first training camp report of this 2024 training camp. Mitch is with us every day for the next month, the next 4 weeks. We're going to hear from Mitch Holthus from Chiefs training camp, and we can't wait to have him aboard once again, the iconic voice of the Kansas City Chiefs. One quick Royals note before we get to the roundup, and it sounds like it's good news for reliever Hunter Harvey, who told Ann Rodgers of MLB.com that he feels much better today after his back locked up yesterday during his outing. Considered day-to-day, writes Rodgers on Twitter, but sounds like the Royals avoided the worst. They could not have afforded to lose both him and John Schreiber. And however you felt while hearing that sentence tells you a lot about how you feel about the Royals bullpen right now.
Just put up 2 prayer hands that he doesn't have to pitch this week, these first 3 days of the road trip, because you're just beating the tar out of the White Sox.
3 complete games.
You'd like to stay off the leverage, guys. A lot of Chris Stratton in this series would be nice. Paul says Baja Blast is overrated in the YouTube live chat.
We're fighting.
That's a bad take.
Baja, I don't know if this is a hot take, but Baja Blast is better than Mountain Dew. Like straight up Mountain Dew.
Man, I am.
And I don't I don't know.
So I'm 37 years old, which means I don't do a lot of Mountain Dew drinking anymore. But there's only one right answer for what is the best Mountain Dew, and that is Code Red. And
it's either Code Red or Baja Blast. That's a valid take.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Trent. It feels good to be
Trenton's seal of approval.
I feel like I have the approval of the youngs as an old when it comes to my Mountain Dew take. Good stuff. Anyway, folks, the Olympics are in full swing, and we have lots to talk about from the weekend. So without any further ado, play my music. It's the Olympic Roundup.
The Olympic Roundup. Olympic Roundup. On 580 Sports Talk. Olympic Roundup.
It's time for the Olympic Roundup, guys.
I don't know what I expected, but that was not it.
No. Also, to be honest, I will tell you, I said that sounds like some 1980s production right there.
That's the Chariots of Fire theme song. That's one of the most famous pieces of composed music of the 1980s.
I meant like your production added to it.
Yes.
It sounds like you were like this
that
to
is
the microphone.
That is Dan Lucero has a cold and trying
no, keep
to
it. No notes.
No, yeah.
10 out of 10.
All right, it's the Olympic Roundup.
While you were gone, we were playing. I know you're not a wrestling guy. We were playing Kurt Angle's theme song for our Olympic Roundup theme. So there you go.
I'll have to look it up in the break.
So in the Olympics yesterday, USA men's basketball had their first game of the tournament playing against Serbia, beat them 110-84. When Nikola Jokic, 3-time MVP of the Denver Nuggets, was on the floor for Serbia, the 31 minutes he was on the floor, the United States and Serbia scored the same number of points. When Jokic was not on the floor for 9 of the 40 minutes, just 9 minutes, the United States outscored Serbia 29-3. Please do not tell me there is a better basketball player in the world than Nikola Jokic. There is not. Firm, hard proof if the championship and all the MVPs didn't do it for you. Maybe this will. The fact that he alone makes Serbia essentially the same as this Team USA team. And without him, Serbia looked like Angola in 92.
Well, 2 notes. One, maybe I was wrong about Steve Kerr. Maybe he's just like really not actually going to figure things out with his rotations and is just going to hope LeBron and KD carry them all the way. 2, very similar with what Greece men's basketball is, because it is Giannis and the Pips. Good Lord, they are bad. Oh my God.
I'm not sure they've got, other than his brother, a whole lot of like active NBA guys. Like the Serbs have Bogdanovic. Vasile Micic is an NBA player. They got one other.
Team Greece has Nick Kalathis and Thomas Walkup.
Man, what? Thomas Walkup? Stephen F. Austin, great.
Yes, the NCAA tournament legend. He must have changed his citizenship.
He must have like a Greek.
Because I think he plays in Greece.
Greek grandmother or something. Oh, I mean, he could play in Greece. That is.
Yeah, American-born, naturalized Greek citizen.
Speaking of citizenship, I think the United States is going to try to get Joel Embiid's revoked before their next game against the South Sudan because
he's been bad, man.
He was stinky. He can't play this style.
Are you thinking Serbia, U.S. is the gold medal game again?
Very possible. I don't know. Canada's got 10 pros. Canada is really good, and France is going to have the home court advantage, and they've got some size. It's going to be tough to deal with. But,
the problem for Canada is going to be that like Spencer is playing center for them. They have no big at all, which that will probably be their downfall.
It's funny that was a Simpsons gag like 20 years ago. That Milhouse and Bart were trying out for the Canadian Olympic team, and Milhouse shoots a brick, and somebody goes, "That was pretty good. You can play center." And they still don't have a center. They got hella guards. They do. They have so many good guards.
Really good guards.
So that was what happened in basketball. Also yesterday, Simone Biles is the top qualifier for the women's gymnastics all-around. Team USA had the best score in women's gymnastics.
Suni Lee also, along with Simone Biles, qualified for the women's all-around.
And we had a U.S. versus U.S. fencing championship.
Were you aware we were good at fencing?
I had no idea.
I wasn't either.
So my wife, I was watching the Olympics with my wife, and she asked me, like, how do you decide you want to, like, be a fencer? Like, I don't know anybody who fences. I've never met anyone who fences. How do you just get the urge to fence? I said, well, I think a large part of it is if you catch it in the Olympics at the right age, at the right time, it seems like something cool you want to do. There are actually 2 fencing clubs in Greater Kansas City, at least on the Kansas side. There's one in Lenexa and one in Overland Park. So like you can learn to fence and fence for cardio.
Yeah.
So if anybody is interested in the fencing, tonight on prime time, we're going to see some more swimming. You're going to see a bonkers race in the 200-meter freestyle and in the 100-meter women's breaststroke.
Mm-hmm.
We're also going to see the men's all around in gymnastics. Men are trying to where are you guys on spoilers? Let's be honest about this. Where are you at on spoiling these things? Because this is going to be prime time tonight. We know that. The gymnastics.
Can I, like, the men performed well.
Yes.
Here's my spoiler for you, because I watched a lot of this while I was working this afternoon. I had one of my screens up in my office watching.
I'm going to add a banner to the live YouTube stand. Here there be Olympic spoilers. So when that banner is up, if you're watching on the YouTube and you don't want it spoiled, you can click the mute button. We'll be here when you get back.
So I will tell you, I don't want to give away all of it here. The men's gymnastics team all around, worth your time. The finish of it is very entertaining. You're going to like this team, by the way. Awesome. Frederick Richard is the coolest gymnast ever. He is awesome. His dad rules.
Low bar, but you're right.
Well, yeah, men's gymnast anyway. Simone Biles is pretty neat. But yes, the men are worth the watch tonight. Also, very funny collapse. Another team had a chance at a particular medal. They did not get that particular medal, and they were the only country that got a medal that was not happy. It is very funny.
I'll look forward to watching it back. I didn't get to see that. I was watching live the U.S.-China volleyball match, which was very good. Tough loss for Team USA. Came back from 2 sets down, forced a 5th set, but China too much in the end. They win the decisive 5th set. So the United States.
They had revenge on their mind from Tokyo.
Yes. It's the pool play. They 0-1 in pool play.
One other thing, I don't know. They might show this tonight in the late night. I'm not sure when Maria Taylor hosts, but this morning there was some men's beach volleyball as well. a really good match between two of the favorites to win gold, between Qatar and Sweden. Two countries that could not be more different, both really good at men's beach volleyball.
Had no idea that was the case.
Qatar won bronze in Tokyo, which
that?
I did not remember. The men, you might remember one of the guys who was on the men's American team who played today.
Chase Budinger, an NBA player. Played at Arizona, Big 12 legend, Chase Budinger.
Yeah, he was first team all Pac-10 at one point. He played 8 years in the NBA and then said, you know what? I'm good with my $16 million. I'm going to go play beach volleyball for a living. And now he's in the Olympics.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
A lot of U.S. men's basketball players came out to watch him. LeBron was there.
KD dapped him up.
KD was there.
In fact, fun fact,
guys from his generation.
Chase Budinger was co-MVP of the McDonald's All-America game his senior year of high school with Kevin Durant.
Yeah, he could really play.
Like, that's incredible.
Crazy.
Pretty wild stuff.
Either of you guys have Peacock?
Yes.
Yeah.
Where are you on Gold Zone?
Huge thumbs up for Gold Zone, by the way. Yeah, huge thumbs up. We're up against time, but yeah, huge thumbs up for Gold Zone. Coming up in the 5 o'clock hour, we got our sports headlines. Mitch Holthus is going to join us. Stay tuned for the voice of the Chiefs from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio on 580 Sports Talk. Let's get it. Final hour of this Monday edition of 580 Sports Talk, taking you up until 6 o'clock and a little overtime today as well, up till 6:30 when we'll hand things off to the Royals Baseball Network. Royals right back in action, trying to rebound from their disappointing series loss at home to the Cubs. They've got the first of three against a gutted Chicago White Sox roster, about which more in a moment. First pitch, 7:10. Pregame coverage, 6:30, right here on 580 Sports Talk. Alec Marsh takes the ball for the Royals tonight. Trent, who's going for the Sox?
Currently, Chris Flexen, Colorado Rockies legend, slated to start.
Rocky great, Chris Flexen. Thank you for that, Trenton. That's Trenton. I'm Dan. Brendan and Spencer are here. Gang's all here for this final hour of 580 Sports Talk. We got Mitch Holthus joining us in a little under 20 minutes or so. Our first training camp report of the season. We'll talk to Mitch here from Andy Reid, and we'll do a little previewing of the Royals White Sox game tonight. Lineup is out and all that good stuff. But we're going to start and fly through, because of our appointment with Mitch, some 580 Sports Talk headlines to begin this 5 o'clock hour. We began with watch list season. Folks, it's here. Watch list season is upon us. It is a wonderful time to be like a sports desk update anchor on the Kansas Information Network, because this is very easy content. There are 4 Kansas Collegians on the Maxwell Award watch list. Maxwell Award goes to the National Player of the Year every year. 2 Jayhawks, 2 Wildcats. If you're guessing in your head, you're probably correct. Jalen Daniels and Devin Neal of KU, Avery Johnson and DJ Giddens for K-State, named to the Maxwell Award watch list. The watch list has something like 60, 70 players on it, but it's still a pretty good starting point to see who the marquee players in this college football season are expected to be. And 4 Kansas Collegians, 2 Jayhawks, and 2 Wildcats are on the list.
Awesome. Deserved by everybody involved. Honestly, the most, I don't know about most impressive. Maybe that's not the best way to put it, but DJ Giddens being on this list is pretty amazing. And I mean that in the most positive way possible for him. What he has done and the work he has put in to be one of the 60 players in the country considered for the award for best player in the country, amazing. Truly amazing by him. And certainly well-deserved by the other 3 as well. First headline for me today. We need, honestly, it's a different sport, but we need the NFL primetime music for this. The hot stove is hot. It is en fuego.
Inferno.
It is burning me up. We had plenty of trades over the weekend. Hope to get to all of those. And we had a couple of trades today as well. Obviously, the headliner for us locally, Michael Lorenzen. He is your newest Kansas City Royal. The Royals trading Walter Pennington to the Texas Rangers in exchange for former All-Star Michael Lorenzen. Not sure yet when he is going to join the club. Elsewhere around Major League Baseball from this weekend, the New York Yankees acquired one of the biggest names on the market, Jazz Chisholm, second baseman and outfielder from the Miami Marlins, for a package of prospects. Don't know exactly where he's going to play yet.
He's going to play third base tonight, which he's never done.
Gleyber Torres, who's currently the second baseman for the Yankees, told reporters today he does not want to play third base. He said, "I am a second baseman. I don't play third base," which is an interesting quote for a guy who came up as a shortstop. Also, you stink, Gleyber Torres. You don't really get a choice, I don't think, at this point. So that was the big acquisition for the Yankees, who are trying to make a playoff push. The Chicago Cubs, yesterday, middle of the game against the Royals, traded their starting designated hitter, Christopher Morel. He was sent along with a pair of pitching prospects to Tampa for third baseman Isaac Paredes. I like the move for what it's worth. We're short on time here, but I like the move. I think it's good. Morel's got insane potential. He's also batting 199 and has absolutely zero plate discipline.
Paredes has 2 years of team control, hit 31 home runs last year. 3 years team control.
3 more RB years.
And hit 31 home runs for the Rays last year. He is only the second player of Mexican descent to hit 30 or more home runs in a major league season. The other 6 answers are Rocky Great, Vinny Castillo.
I was wondering if you were going to see that tweet, because I had that bookmarked to ask you if you could name the other 7 seasons or the other 6 seasons. Tampa has been busy in a couple of different ways. They also sent reliever Jason Adam to the San Diego Padres in return for 3 prospects,
including number 2 and number 8 on the organizational top 10 for the Padres. So that's the cost to get a reliever with 2 years of team control.
I don't.
The San Diego farm system better than Kansas City's.
I don't really like that process by San Diego, to be honest with you. That's a lot to give up for a relief pitcher.
AJ Preller, man. AJ Preller is like if you gave a guy who was really good at the out-of-the-park baseball game a real-life GM job.
And part of me likes that. Like, if I was a fan, I'd like to make moves, but at some point the well does run dry. And so, not my favorite move, but so be it. The Rangers have also been busy, along with dealing with the Royals. They added catcher Carson Kelly from Detroit. The Tigers reportedly are working on possibly moving Jack Flaherty. However, according to Ken Rosenthal, they will not be moving Tarek Skubal. Multiple sources of Rosenthal said that is not going to end up happening. The Cincinnati Reds have acquired infielder Ty France, formerly of the Seattle Mariners. He was DFA'd just the other day. And the bigger trade around baseball today involving the Cardinals, the Dodgers, and the White Sox. This is a Travis Shamockery. The Cardinals got Eric Fetty from the White Sox, as well as cash and Tommy Pham. The Dodgers ended up getting Tommy Edman and Michael Kopech from the Cardinals and White Sox, respectively. And the White Sox got
3 prospects.
Bupkis. They got a couple prospects.
So Miguel Vargas is the headline prospect, 24 years old. He had been a pretty big deal prospect, but he's only hit 192 in his big league career so far. He can play second. He can play left. He'll probably, as soon as he gets to Chicago, be in the lineup for the White Sox because somebody has to play. They do have to field a 9-man team with a pitcher. That is the rule. But yeah, those were 3 of your 4 best trade chips, and that was all you could get. And like, I know Tommy Pham is old and on an expiring. I know Eric Fetty's a veteran. He's only got 1 more year of team control. And Michael Kopech is, iffy up and down.
100 miles an hour, but it might be hit 110 out of the ballpark.
So, for the White Sox to only get what they got is
shameful.
They are a Ponzi scheme.
It's shameful.
Shame on them.
It's amazing how bad Jerry Reinsdorf is. Oh, and by the way, we should also add the organization is now feuding with their best trade asset, Garrett Crochet. Chris Getz, former Royal and the White Sox GM, also former White Sox, has publicly said, like, here's what we're looking for. And then Garrett Crochet and his agent came out and were like, oh, yeah, by the way, if you're not extending me, then the White Sox aren't trading me. And the White Sox are now saying, bro, what? Why did you say that? Why did you tell people that? And not great in Chicago.
Terrible organization. Also,
truly.
Quick addendum to the trade list. Justin Turner, veteran third baseman, goes from Toronto to Seattle in a 1-for-1 trade.
My wife, our resident Mariners fan, hyped.
Mariners are adding vibes, guys. Him and Rosarena. They're adding vibes, guys. They are a vibes team.
Yes. Look, man, that team has been so forlorn for a long time, save for that one We Believe run a couple years ago. I respect it. I do. Go for it. Why the hell not?
Yeah, give it a shot.
What's the alternative? Being the Mariners for the most of rest of history? Like, no, go for it. I appreciate it.
All right, Spencer, what's your first headline?
Yes. So we know per his Instagram that former Kansas State player, well, I guess he was a
roster member.
He was a roster member, redshirted last year. Quez Glover has landed at Ohio State. Didn't play last year, obviously. Redshirted last year. I've dug into this a little bit more. According to the Ohio State Hoops Insider on Twitter, I'm assuming they seem to have a good following.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to trust what they're saying here. In a possibly unprecedented move, Quez will join the team as a walk-on, pay his own tuition with his NIL funds in order to come on board for the season with the way their roster and scholarships were.
Way around the scholarship limit. Yeah. If that's unprecedented, it won't be long until it's copied. Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's essentially how BYU football did it with their walk-ons a couple years ago, right? Remember when they all got $6,000?
Yeah, everybody got an NIL deal from one donor, and
that just happened to be the amount of tuition for in-state kids at BYU.
yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, so I get it. Also, just while we're talking college basketball, Nick Timberlake is going to play professionally in Portugal.
Good for him. The three-point line closer there.
Do you have to play defense there?
How's the caliber of athleticism? Is it somewhere beneath the Big 12?
I was saying to Trent earlier, still probably some of the most entertaining moments of this past season was when he would just out of nowhere dunk.
Yeah,
just always yam on a dude. It was never a simple transition 2-hand drop. No, he would yam.
I think
every time he did it, you'd look and I didn't know he could do that.
I think the outside of the initial excitement at Allen Fieldhouse when you first get there and the team runs out, I don't think there's been more of a frenzy than when he dunked on Dylan DeSue in the Texas game.
I remember
that the crowd went into that. I can remember
rule.
last year because there was a lot of low moments in KU basketball last year.
Relatively.
Yeah.
Next headline for me, we'll do a quick little NFL roundup, a couple of NFL headlines of interest. Lions offensive tackle Taylor Decker has signed a 3-year contract extension to stay in Detroit. It's a $60 million extension with $31.83 million guaranteed. The veteran Decker into his 30s, but still a fine player as a bookend for Penei Sewell on that other side of that Lions line.
That's good business. Decker's a good player. Brad Holmes is a really good GM. He's done a great job with him. I don't love every move they've made this offseason, but that's a really good move.
Some bad news for a couple of AFC South contenders. The Indianapolis Colts will be without their returning sack leader from 2023. Defensive end Samson Ebukam tore his Achilles tendon during a full squad period of Sunday's practice. He had 9.5 sacks, a career high last season, and he will miss the entirety of this upcoming year. That puts a lot of onus on the 15th overall pick in this past draft, Laiatu Latu, who the Colts selected out of UCLA. And Texans defensive end Danico Autry has been suspended for 6 games for violating the NFL's PED policy. The 34-year-old said in a statement the violation was because his doctor submitted a prescription for a different medication that contained a banned substance. He says he did not intentionally violate the league's policy, but accepts the punishment. Autry signed a 2-year, $20 million deal after setting a new career high with 11.5 sacks last season for the Texans. 59 career sacks. Really good, really underrated player through his career. And the Texans will have to make do without him for the first 6 games of 2024.
He is a beloved character in the NFL podcaster realm. Those dudes love Danico Autry. I always prefer Gene personally. You're
about Autry Denson.
That's a good one. I love the explanations guys give for why they got banned for PEDs. My favorite one of all time was Golden Tate being like, oh yeah, I was on fertility medication. I can't believe the NFL would suspend me over this, even though he and his wife had just had like their 3rd kid. Brother, you absolutely were not on that medication. Yeah, I'm certain that you were not on that. One final headline for me. Let's go to the NFL for this one as well. This feels somewhat like we sort of knew this was the case, but also sort of vindicating that we talked about it so much last offseason, Dan. Buccaneers wide receiver Mike Evans was on NFL Network this weekend and said that he was legitimately thinking about signing with 2 teams before he eventually did re-sign with Tampa Bay, or earlier this offseason, excuse me. Those were the Houston Texans and the Kansas City Chiefs. But in the end, he loves Tampa. He's a very deep part of that community. His wife didn't want to leave. Well, that is enough. And by the way, Tampa offering $41 million over 2 years helped as well. But the Chiefs were in it, and teams or agents giving a team like that, I mean, that's just part of doing business. Mike Evans straight up saying, yes, I was considering signing with the Kansas City Chiefs. That's actually newsworthy. So that actually was a legitimate possibility this offseason.
Yeah, that's something else. And yeah, it makes me feel better about all the oxygen we spilled on it during the offseason as a possibility, if it actually was.
Yeah. One other note real quick here, and I want to check this sourcing. Sounds like, even if he's not going to announce it publicly yet, sounds like Harrison Smith is reportedly entering the final year of his career, that he's expected to retire when the year ends.
Wow.
Harrison Smith for 3 or 4 years was legitimately an elite safety.
Yes.
He has been riding on that reputation for about the last 5 years at this point.
Back-to-back All-Pros, first team in 2017, second team in 2018, made a stretch of 5 consecutive Pro Bowls from 15 to 19. And yeah, got into his 30s, and as happens when you are a football player in your 30s, sometimes the effectiveness begins to slip a little bit. Yeah, he has not been the same player.
I will say the highest compliment you can probably get as a football player is twofold. One, it's from fans of opposing teams. I hate that dude. I hate Harrison Smith, and I'm glad he's retiring. That's because he's a really good player. The other is that you can get other dudes paid. Andrew Sendejo owes every single penny he got after leaving Minnesota to Harrison Smith. That dude sucked. Awful football player, but he looked great next to all-pro Harrison Smith. Owes his whole career to that guy.
That's going to do it for our 580 Sports Talk headlines for this Monday. When we come back, we're chatting with the voice of the Kansas City Chiefs, Mitch Holthus, for our first training camp report of 2024. That's next here on 580 Sports Talk, live from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. .526 on 580 Sports Talk. And for the first time during the 2024 Chiefs training camp, we are privileged to be joined by the voice of the Chiefs, Mitch Holthus. His training camp reports are brought to you by Hy-Vee and by Azure Credit Union. Contact Crystal Rippey, Kirsten McCall, or Kristen Ambergy about the credit union advantage in getting your first or next home loan. Mitch, it is a delight to hear your voice again. That means football is right around the corner. How ready are you for the Chiefs to try and do something that's never been done in NFL history and three-peat as Super Bowl champs?
Probably as ready as I've been at any time in 31 years because I've been around these guys for the last 100-plus days. And honestly, nobody has to say a word. You're not clanking pots and pans saying, hey, we're going for it. We're going for a three-peat. Nobody says a word, but you can tell. The look in their eyes all through OTAs, all through the mandatory minicamp, and so far in this camp, quarterbacks and injured guys have been here since the 16th, and the rookies since the 16th of July. So they're on it. This group is got a real shot to do something that's never been done. In fact, I'll throw it out there. Of the 8 previous back-to-back champions, you guys have probably talked about this. None of those 8 even made it back for a chance for a three-peat. 3 didn't even make the playoffs. And so this is a monumental task, but this team they're on it, man. They got a real shot at this.
And the biggest part of that, it starts at the top with Andy Reid, the expectations he sets, the camp he runs, the standard that he sets throughout the camp. And I know you had a chance to speak with him earlier during this training camp. We're going to hear from him. And one thing that really stands out about this group, especially the young guys that they brought into the program the last couple of years, a really good sense of football intelligence, of IQ, a high level of understanding of what their role either is or might end up being. This is a really smart football team. They've played smart football throughout this back-to-back Super Bowl run, and that's all part of the design for Andy Reid.
Yeah, that's well stated. This is a team that is still very young. In fact, this is a team that I think is just still developing throughout maybe 95% of the roster. But I would add something to that as well, and that is these young guys, starting with the 21 class, Creed Humphrey, Nick Bolton, Trey Smith, then the 22 class, which is phenomenal, and then piecing together last year's class and then this year's rookie class is their emotional and mental maturity. That's what sticks out, and that goes back to Brett Beach. It's going to be hard to make this roster, but for Andy Reid, every day matters. Every day is a sense of urgency. But it starts with evaluating, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally.
Trying to play that cut, Mitch. Here it is.
Also, the mistakes that you make, I'm gonna see who makes who continues to make the same mistake. Normally, those guys aren't going to last with you a long time. So, if you're a repeat offender, you got problems normally in this thing. So we explain that to them before they get out there, and then I think that helps them really latch in and pay attention and focus. It increases that focus even a little bit more.
You think? I mean, Andy Reid's as fair as a coach as I've been around, and Bill Snyder the same. But they would also just melt you with some words of like, if you're a repeat offender, you're not going to be around here long. That just should, send shockwaves down somebody's body. But it's also the sense of urgency, the fact that they attack OTAs better than any team in the league, the fact that their training camp would arguably be the toughest in the National Football League within the rules that now exist with the NFLPA. But that sense of urgency permeates throughout this entire team. And the Chiefs have had the toughest record in the NFL the last 5 years. They had the toughest road to the Super Bowl championship of any Super Bowl team last year. And that's been proven numerically. But this year, it's more of the same. And that's why there's a sense of urgency.
Ravens are a good wake-up call for you. They're a heck of a football team, and will be coming up here. So that's our first game. And then we've got the Bengals. And, I mean, it's all the way through the season. So the guys know it by the schedule that you got to be ready to go. And there's no start slow, finish fast. I mean, that's not the way this thing works now with the way that, the playoffs work and the season works and all that. I mean, you got to jumpstart it right away or you get lost in the shuffle. So our players, they realize that the urgency is there. We've got enough senior leadership on the team to where they're aware of how this thing operates, and we talk to them as coaches about that. We've got to be on our game too as coaches. So it's everybody pulling together and going. And the best time is today to get ourselves better. And we know we've got to get better. I mean, that's just how this thing goes.
And Dan, it goes back to your point that this is a young, experienced team. That 2022 draft class, which is outstanding and has been great, is 43-0 in the playoffs. And yet their maturity is they act like they've never won anything. That's why I'm telling you this team has got a chance. They're wired mentally because of the coach and the quarterback. But it's been with Andy Reid. It's been his MO all along. This will be he's had 11 seasons, 11 Septembers with the Kansas City Chiefs, and Andy Reid is 27-9 in those Septembers. You get out of the gate quickly because you attack camp and you attack the off season in a very expedient fashion.
You mentioned the record, 27-9 in September. This is no ordinary September for the Chiefs. They've got two big ones right out of the gate, an AFC Championship game rematch against the Ravens, and then arguably the team that has, well, they're the only team with a big game win over them in the AFC in recent memory, and that's the Cincinnati Bengals. So it's two big games right out of the gates. We know that Andy Reid runs a tight ship and a tough training camp. All the players say it. All the players seem grateful for it. It seems to have a track record of success. But because the Chiefs have played as a group so much football these last 2 years, these back-to-back Super Bowl runs and an AFC Championship run before that, and back-to-back Super Bowl runs before that. The veteran guys on this team have played a lot of football. How do you balance maybe managing some of that to make sure that physically you are ready to go at peak in September, even though there's a lot of tread on the tires?
We have to realize this team, most of these guys, well, the veteran guys have played 7 seasons in 6. They played an entirely additional season other than any other team in the NFL over the past 6 years. And the Septembers, they're 5-4 in their last 9 in that 27-9. And that's counting the 2 Super Bowl championships. But it goes back to the leadership and the detail of Andy Reid. For example, the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, they went 3 hard days in pads. And it wasn't just hitting and doing the first hitting since the Super Bowl. It was doing long drive drill. There was one drill where the offense had a 12-play drive. I mean, he calculates this thing down to the very nub, like the very bit of, but part of that is that now he backed off today. They had a 10-10-10 practice, which was more of a tempo, less physical, more of a mental challenge day. And tomorrow they get a day off. And then he's going to come right back roaring with pads again on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So he has figured this out over years and years of research and years of working at it. You sprint, you push, you back off a bit, you shut down. Then you go back to the push. It's the Farklick method, which has been used by military trainers since like the 18th century. But he's a wizard at it. He's outstanding at it. And it builds a team for endurance, but it also does not wear out a team. Think about this. This team, of all the contenders in the AFC, and I knock on wood here, has avoided more than most teams in the AFC in this run of 6 years. The debilitating injury that just knocks you out. Like Burrow's gone, right? Done. He's just done, and that's it. So it took the Bengals out of the grid. Or slow start. They get an 0-2 start. These young coaches, I think, Dan, are facing the challenge. They want to do what Andy Reid does, but they're lacking the swag, or some of their stars push them around, or some of the stars' agents are going, no, we ain't doing OTAs at the team. We're going to do our own. So you can see what culture the other teams are fighting some culture, while this Chiefs team has its culture well in place and it's full steam ahead, and everybody buys in.
Mitch Holthus, the voice of the Kansas City Chiefs, is joining Brendan, Dan, and Spencer here on 580 Sports Talk. Our first training camp report of the year, brought to you by Hy-Vee and Azura Credit Union. Excited to talk to Mitch every day throughout the rest of training camp here on the program. And Mitch, when you talk about the attention to detail during camp and for Coach Reid, and obviously every year we talk about how intense this is, but how that prepares this Chiefs team for the start of the season and well into the season. One thing that Coach talked about over the weekend was turnovers. He was asked about, hey, you guys had a poor turnover margin last year. How are you working on that during camp? And he talked about how they've thought about it offensively, that it's okay to turn it over when you're trying things, but you still want to be careful. Defensively, they're working on punching the ball out, catching interceptions, etc. Is that something or the kind of thing that in your years following Andy Reid that you have full trust that, hey, that was a mistake before, they're working on it now, it's just going to be fixed when the season rolls around in early September?
It's crazy to team that this team won the Super Bowl in the circumstances in which they did it. And in the regular season, we're minus 11 in the giveaway takeaway, 30th in the league, only 2 were worst. Then you throw in the 45 drops, you throw in the 20 holding penalties during the regular season, and a lot of that got cleaned up in the playoff run, and the Chiefs wouldn't have won the Super Bowl. But Andy Reid, for the most part, in his 11 years prior to this one, the Chiefs have been near the top in the giveaway takeaway, or at least in the upper third. So it's a one-off last year to have that happen. But you're right. It is a two-way go here. The fact that the offense, they're going to be way more aggressive. This team has a chance to be way better offensively, way better than last year, but the chance to have Mahomes' best offensive year because of the weapons that are there. We'll get into that in later reports, and I'll kind of get into that tomorrow with Patrick, because I had a chance to sit down with him. But there's that element, but there's also the element of the takeaways. This is not a defensive team, even though they were second in the NFL in scoring defense and second in the NFL in yards allowed. They were not great at taking the ball away. So I think that they have, because they have matured and these younger guys are growing into their role, they know the offense or defense better. And when you know it, you can take a few more chances knowing where your buddies are going to be. So I look for that to even push both ways, fewer turnovers and more takeaways.
Mitch Holthus, the voice of the Kansas City Chiefs, joins us daily during training camp for the next month for his training camp reports. Brought to you by Hy-Vee and by Azure Credit Union. Contact Crystal Rippey, Kirsten McCall, or Kristen Ambergy about the Credit Union Advantage of getting your first or next home loan. Mitch, we're going to hear from Patrick Mahomes tomorrow, it sounds like. And I have loved hearing him talk at camp so far, because you want to talk about a guy who sounds unbothered by any kind of pressure and just ready to go play. That would describe Patrick Mahomes to me.
Zero pressure. He's feeling zero pressure. In fact, I would tell you he felt the pressure last year when he knew he had to be just precise, and even that might not have been good enough. Now he's got playmakers. But we're going to jump in tomorrow to the secret sauce, ever since Pat became the QB1, that the NFL's trying to replicate, but nobody yet really has been able to do it, at least on a highly consistent basis like the Chiefs have. We'll dive into that tomorrow night.
We can't wait. Mitch Holthus, the voice of the Chiefs, joining us for his training camp reports. Mitch, always a pleasure. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.
Get ready, boys. These guys are going for it, and they're not talking about it, but I'm telling you, the look in their eye, every fan of the Chiefs Kingdom listening, you need to know it's on.
Awesome. Thank you, Mitch. Appreciate you.
See you guys.
That is what I love to hear. Don't talk about it. Be about it. This is a very be about it football team. And they always have been a very be about it football team. They have let everybody else always do the talking, whether it's something as silly as the Muppet at the Raiders camp last week, or the Raiders doing their the
bus tour,
the bus tour, the victory lap that they did that one time, or Burrowhead and all that nonsense.
Yeah, tuna in a can, like the Bills running their mouth. The Chiefs are happy to walk the walk. And then after they beat you, then they'll talk. They won't hesitate to talk after they beat you. In fact, Travis Kelce will find the nearest microphone and he will say what he needs to say. He will get it off of his chest, usually in the form of a song.
Well, I just mentioned to you guys last week, there was the story from when Joe Burrow was on a podcast recently and said, I don't do social media a lot, but one time after we beat the Chiefs in the regular season, I posted rap lyrics on Instagram or Twitter or whatever. And then, I don't do a lot of that. I don't start stuff normally. But then after they beat us in the AFC Championship game, Chris Jones ran over to me, got right in my face, and then said those lyrics right back to me. And Burrow, because, he plays things off. He's like, hey, what am I supposed to do about it? Like, I started it, he finished it. I mean, that is what it is. But, that's what the Chiefs are. That's what they are. And you can say that it's annoying if you're a fan of another team, but who cares about that in Kansas City? No one. Well, weirdos who can't get off Twitter, probably. But, the team itself, no one. No one cares because you're going to beat you. Yeah. That's all that matters. Just, okay.
You don't need to talk.
You got one. That's nice. That's, as much as I love Joe Burrow as a quarterback and as a dude, everyone's, they've got the upper hand. They've still got more wins against Mahomes overall. Yeah, how many of those really counted? One did, for sure. Yeah. Going to the Super Bowl, that counted.
Mm-hmm. But then the Chiefs got their lick back the next year.
Yeah, and a lot of those were in the regular season, which we have seen plenty of proof of in the last couple of years. The Chiefs use more as a testing ground than they do. Specifically this past season, it was a testing ground more than it was an actual, proof of concept.
We love having Mitch on. He gets the Chiefs fans fired up. Text for the Top City Mail Supply text line from the 785. This team's already better than last year's team. The three-peat is going to happen. The Chiefs Kingdom planting their flag. They're fired up. We're fired up to have Mitch Holthus on the show throughout the rest of training camp here on 580 Sports Talk. We're going to take a quick break here from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. When we come back, Royals baseball tonight, and we're going to get Spencer's thoughts on seeing Luke Combs in the pit. That's next on 580 WIBW. 5:43 on 580 Sports Talk. We're rounding third, heading for home. Dan, Brendan, Spencer, Trenton, gang's all here. It was a close call for Spencer. Late night, late travel night out of the DMV last night. You fly out of Dulles?
No, Reagan.
Okay.
Reagan's
Is that the better airport?
Well, no.
Okay,
Reagan,
locals only content for our friends out
Reagan
east.
is the only one of those two that flies directly here via Southwest.
Okay. Yeah, you got to get that direct flight.
Yeah, or you can go up to Baltimore. But
It was very delayed, and you got back late, but we're glad you're here. You went to see Luke Combs, and you had upper level tickets, and then you found out that those upper level tickets magically became pit tickets. You were down amongst the people.
Yes, I was down amongst the people. So I bought these tickets. Little backstory, quick. Bought these tickets last August in the pre-sale, which is the best way to get tickets anymore because of all these outrageous prices that people do on resale.
Mm-hmm.
So I bought them last August, was still employed before I had got laid off of my old place. And for the last, since I moved here, we were debating, do we go, do we not go, do we go, do we not go? And then we said, we're going to go. So we went, and it was Thursday.
You'll never regret going. You'll only regret not going.
Exactly. So Thursday, they usually put out some little promotions when you go do the pre-sale.
Yeah.
And we got a little notification. It's like, hey, you can skip the line at the merch tent. I was like, oh, it's kind of a bummer. And then I was like, let me check my email. And in the email, it said, you've been upgraded to pit ticket or to selected floor seats. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Really cool.
So we went and picked them up. And the best part about it was we got to pick up our wristbands for it. Whereas people that are good were in there originally, they had to get them at the gate. So we scanned our ticket and walked by everyone as they were putting their wristbands on.
Real VIP stuff.
So we walked right down. And then
do you think it's because you look like him?
No.
Okay.
But I got that quite a few times on Saturday.
Did anybody buy any beer or pat you on the back? What did you get? What was the best interaction you had with somebody who told you that you favored the person everyone was there to see?
I mean, so I had high expectations because last year when I went to the Luke Combs concert, I was with my buddy. So it was more of like the bachelor thing.
Sure. No, I get it.
Like guys going to be guys.
Yeah.
And do whatever we
guys
wanted
being
to do.
dudes, for sure.
Yeah. So this year was more like obviously calmed down with my girlfriend and did not get any free beer.
It's tough.
But, I wasn't really playing for that. Like last year, I was like playing it all up.
Sure. No, I understand.
Not playing it up this year. But yeah, about probably like
is she a fan too of his music?
Yeah.
And a good show.
Yeah, it was a great show. The song from Twisters that he did, the best thing ever.
You like that one, huh?
Yeah, because it's got like the guitar strums at the beginning and just the lights and everything. So good. So fun. If you I'm not going to do it again, or I'm not going to buy them because I've already had the experience, but you've got to experience like going in the pit once in your life.
A comment in the YouTube live chat from user Olivia, who writes, gee, thanks, blame me, the girlfriend. First of all, hello to Spencer's lovely girlfriend, who I've not met yet. I still need to meet Olivia. Olivia, thank you for listening.
Missed out. She's great.
I'm sure she is.
Yeah. Have a fun trip home tonight.
You might want to pick up, I don't know, flowers, chocolate, whatever she gets down with. I mean, it's her first day of work, first day at a new job, so you need to do that anyway.
Yeah.
You need to come correct anyhow. But no, glad you had a good time. Glad you got back safe. Glad you're here.
Almost didn't. We boarded the flight when I was supposed to be landed in Kansas City.
That's a long delay.
Yeah.
That is a tough delay.
But I'm here.
Let's get into some Royals baseball. We appreciate you sharing. If you've made problems for yourself at home, I can't help you there. Olivia, go easy on him, man. It's the best I can do. Royals baseball tonight.
We need him back tomorrow.
Yeah, we do. We need him back tomorrow. Royals White Sox, game 1 of their 3-game series. This is the final time this year that the Royals and the White Sox will play this series. This is it.
Oh, man.
No more beating up on the tomato can of Major League Baseball, the Chicago White Sox. The Royals are 9-1 in 10 games against the White Sox. They'll send Alec Marsh to the mound against fellow right-hander Chris Flexen. Again, the White Sox will be without leadoff hitter Tommy Pham. He got traded today. They will be without their best relief pitcher, Michael Kopech. He also got traded today. Eric Fetty wasn't going to pitch in this series, and now the next time he pitches, he'll be in a different uniform because he also got traded today. And Garrett Crochet isn't going to pitch in this series either. So this should be, every time we've said this, it's been a letdown. But This should be a series win and maybe even a sweep.
No,
the
this
Royals.
should be a sweep. You should win every game in this series by 4 runs. This should be a sweep. I am not going to give the soft confidence here. This has to be a sweep.
I will be very sad if the Royals don't win this
So,
series.
Are we on the train that maybe the White Sox could lose like 130 games this year?
Yes. Like they are on track to do like 1962 Mets stuff. They've lost 14 straight games, which they had already done this year. They are miserable. Tommy Pham was their best hitter, and he's no longer on the team. Him and Luis Robert are the only players with an above average OPS to league average. And now Tommy Pham isn't on the team anymore. Michael Kopech, I say was their only good reliever. Actually, Steven Wilson's been, better by ERA, but not by like any other metric. They had a couple of guys like Brebbia and Banks have been like better by the fielding independent numbers than Kopech, but Kopech's been their closer. He saved 9 of their 27 wins.
Also, bad news for the Royals when they head to Detroit later this week. I just saw a report that it's unlikely Tarek Skubal is on the move. It's unlikely, so they might get Skubal after this, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And maybe Jack Flaherty, if he doesn't get traded, he's going to start Thursday.
I think he's going to get traded. It sounds like that's something fairly imminent. There are a lot of reports out there saying the Yankees are in, and if they get Flaherty, they'll trade Nestor Cortez, which feels like addition by subtraction. Like Cortez was good a couple years ago.
He's okay. Really bad this year, though.
He's okay. 399 FIP. He's a mid-rotation guy.
Like, you
don't get better giving those guys away. He makes every start.
Yeah. I have a buddy who's a huge Yankees fan, and every single time Nestor Cortez gets pulled from a game, you would have thought someone like told him he was a big fat loser. Like he takes it really personally every time he gets pulled. This White Sox lineup should be illegal tonight.
Nicky Lopez is batting leadoff.
That's it. Stop there. That's all. That's all you need.
Something Royals fans should be familiar with, the level of down bad that leads to, I'm going to bat Nicky Lopez leadoff.
Andrew Vaughn stinks. He's at first base. Gavin Sheets has been awful. He's batting clean. They've got a player with negative wins above replacement hitting cleanup in July.
That's tough. Andrew Benintendi's down to the 6th spot. Royal great. They've got some creative players like Brooks Baldwin at second base, and
Brooks Baldwin just got caught up though. He's not. He might be something.
Chucky Robinson.
That's a creative player.
What do you know about Chucky Robinson?
He started with the Reds because they said that in the last series.
He's the guy from the backyard baseball games who has an afro and eats hot dogs, right?
Yeah.
That's Dante Robinson.
Brooks Baldwin is like one of the prospects of the White Sox. He got caught up right after the All-Star break.
Yeah, you're right about that. Right?
He is a guy. I will say, though, Ann Rodgers put out an update on Michael Lorenzen after talking with Q. Quote, this is what Q said. We don't know, and he knows that we don't know exactly how he's going to be used. We're going to have to see how the rest of the trade deadline plays out, who's here, who's not, and see how the injuries play out as well. I thought that last little part was a little interesting.
Reliever.
Who's here, who's not.
Reliever.
We'll see. Royals aren't done. Deadline is tomorrow, 5 o'clock. So less than 24 hours from the trade deadline. Michael Massey back in the leadoff spot for the Royals tonight. With Pasquantino Perez behind him. Pasquantino at first, Perez catching. Renfroe in left, right. Melendez in left. Fermin DHing. Garcia at third. Kyle Isbell is in center field. Massey at leadoff is an interesting choice because of his, let's call it what it is, his gross on base percentage, because of the fact that he never walks, but he's walked in each of his last 2 games. Maybe being in the leadoff role will change the way he approaches his at-bats and bring that out of it, bring that selectivity out of it. Maybe that's what the Royals are trying to do. I will say this. I am glad that Matt Quintero is trying something.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Because it can't be Adam Frazier. Like we've seen enough of that.
His willingness to say, this isn't working, I'm going to try something else I like it. I mean, that seems like a very obvious thing you should be willing to do as a baseball manager. But then the previous 2 Royals managers were Ned Yost and Mike Matheny. And not guys exactly known for doing that.
No.
Even for all the good Ned brought. Not exactly beating the stubborn allegations.
Texter from the 785 of the Top Emails Play text line says, you guys sound way too confident about tonight, making me nervous. Look.
I'm confident. They're going to beat them.
Good thing we don't play.
Broadway Joe Namath before Super Bowl 3. The Royals are going to win the baseball game tonight.
Stone cold lock of the century of the day.
Good thing we don't go out there and suit up. We just watch.
I could start in right field for the White Sox tonight.
I probably could soak up some relief innings for him.
I could lean into a pitch and get on base.
100%. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we've got the final word from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio on 580 Sports Talk. Wrapping up and walking off this Monday edition of 580 Sports Talk with the final word. Brendan.
My final word for today is that I just changed my mind from what I told you moments ago. I am actually going to bet on the Royals to win tonight. This White Sox team is an embarrassment. It really is. It's an embarrassment on the field, but it's an embarrassment in the club, like in the clubhouse and in the front office as well. And Royals fans, you should be very happy that that's not you. And yes, frustration from the weekend, losing a series to the Cubs and a very bad offense. Yes, I can understand being frustrated. You should be. You should expect better at this point. But the margins are so slim that could have turned those losses into wins. So don't fret too much. Get back on the horse. Sweep this series. You're right in the thick of things as we head into August.
Spencer, final word.
Yeah, I'm happy to be back. Hopefully the Royals can. I thought they were going to have a good weekend this weekend. Didn't have as best of a weekend as I thought they would. But here's to a new week.
Your Nationals just made a trade.
Yeah, we got breaking news, late breaking news. Cleveland Guardians have gotten off their hands, and they have acquired Lane Thomas from the Nationals.
Okay, that was surprising because I had seen that Rizzo didn't get initial offers that he wanted for him.
Well, the Guardians had to do
trade?
something. Don't know yet. Ken Rosenthal with it first. Guardians lead the Tigers 2-0 in the first inning today, so early start for the Guardians, and they've added a bat who's pretty solid. So.
All right, well, looking forward to seeing who they get back. So
keep beating the Tigers. Beat those Tigers.
Final word for me, it is impossible, if you have a pulse, not to get excited about Chiefs football when you talk to Mitch Holthus. It's not. I don't think you even have to be the most dyed-in-the-wool Chiefs fan to enjoy Mitch's enthusiasm and the enthusiasm for this team, which has won back-to-back Super Bowls, has a chance to do something unprecedented, and is going to do it with a, by and large, really likable group of players. This should be an outstanding year. This should be a fun year. This should be a successful year. And it felt like it started today with Mitch Holthus on the show. Just having him back for the training camp reports. That to me is when football mode kind of activates in the recesses of my brain. So happy to have Mitch today. We'll have him every day until the end of training camp here on 580 Sports Talk. That'll do it for us today. We got overtime until 6:30. Pre-game coverage for Royals baseball begins then. First pitch at 7:10 from Guaranteed Rate Field in Chicago. Until tomorrow from 2 to 6 for Trenton, Spencer, and Brendan. I'm Dan Lucero. This has been 580 Sports Talk live from the Kansas Drive to Zero studios.